Chad being president?
Yes.
Yes.
I think you have to do it by
Yeah,
name.
Tia, we do roll call vote.
Roll call vote has to go through.
Rita,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Diana, yay, Quincy,
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
Yes.
So it has been moved that we have a new president, Chad Lauer. The next election will be, or the next thing that we'll elect is the vice president. Do I have a nomination?
I make a motion to elect Diana as vice president.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Rita,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Diana. Yes. Quincy,
Yes. Congratulations.
Chad.
Chad?
Yes.
Okay, so. Chad, you're supposed to take my place now.
Can I have a remote gavel?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Sean has a gong sound effect you can use.
Yeah, motion one of the characters.
Yes.
So do you want to carry on?
Sure, I can help you with that. We need public comment next, is that correct?
There is none.
There's
No
none.
public comment, all right. Well, then I guess we're moving on. Oh gosh, I have to scroll now, excuse me.
For the consent of the agenda.
Oh, thank you. Can we, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, or are there any questions on the consent agenda?
I had a couple. On the school improvement plan, the targeted strategies to close the achievement gaps.
Mhm.
I was curious why we say that being economically disadvantaged, that gets in the way of achievement.
There's a lot of research out there that does indicate that school districts that have more low income or more economically
Well, I'm
disadvantaged.
talking about the individual. They're talking about an individual child just because they're economically disadvantaged. Why does that make their learning ability worse?
Because they don't have the same resources as students from more affluent communities, such as after-school tutoring, access to books in the home, access to medical. There's a lot of things that students from lower income backgrounds just don't have access to. So, and it is one of the qualifiers, one of the school improvement indicators that Washington State is monitoring too. And then our Title I funds are also for school districts that have a higher percentage of low income students, based on just
But
that
we
need.
provide those things, right?
We do, but it's also something that we still have to indicate we're working to address students that come from lower socioeconomic status through the school improvement planning, because we are Title I, and that is part of the Title I requirements. Victoria, did I say that correctly? Okay, thank you.
Okay. The number 4, strengthening school and community partnership. I had suggested once that we maybe continue putting an article in the paper, because I am still getting positive feedback. And I think it's a great way to get in touch. I mean, I'm shocked at how much feedback I've gotten from the article. Whether it's positive or negative to any individual isn't the point. It's just the point that they liked being in touch with. And I know you do it on your website. I know you do it in the conferences, but I just am amazed at how positive it was. And so I would like to know why we don't try to do something. I don't have to write the articles. If you don't like what I say, that's not an issue. But I think as a board, we should have something. And perhaps before a board meeting, and we could mention some of the topics that we're going to be discussing, so that they are
So
part of it.
are you suggesting me to advertising when our board meetings are, or
That too.
or what are you suggesting exactly? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm thinking that we just have to say how positive we feel about the programs we have
Mhm.
or whatever to the newspaper
Okay.
for our
Okay,
and to let them know at the same time, we have a meeting that's coming up and some of these are the topics that we will be.
we put our topic calendar, I can go back and make sure our topic calendar is on our website, and we're doing, it's hard with the Post Register not being a weekly.
I realize
That is challenging, but there's no reason that we haven't laid out our winter communicator edition, so, we can maybe carve out upcoming meetings and topics, if that's
But
what
they
the
have
board
to get
wants to
that
do.
on their computer. correct?
No, the communicator, the cool thing about the communicator is.
Oh, you're talking about the newspaper.
Yeah, it goes out
your
to
little
everybody.
paper.
You don't have to, and we actually beefed it up. We've added 4 more pages to it to make up for the Post Register not being there. So we could carve out something there too.
And the nice thing about that is that it's in English and Spanish,
Yeah,
Right.
where the
Yeah.
Post Register is not.
but again, I think, and that's something too, when we talk about communication as part of the written report, I think that's a topic that'd be a topic agenda that, we could as a board talk about
Mhm.
for sure.
Okay.
Chad wants to say something.
Chad?
Yeah, sorry, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think adding something from the board in the communicator would be an interesting touch. Because
Well-
we are kind of out of touch unless somebody reaches out to us, so.
And Dana is going to be the next, they'll be reaching out to you soon, Dana, featuring the board member, but we could put a little more in there too. So, but yeah.
And then I just wanted to find out, read in the same thing that all schools seem to have a real problems with attendance. And I'm just curious why is that the case? I'm not understanding what's causing this lack of attendance. Can any of you?
I think there's a
So-
variety of reasons that our attendance is still being impacted, I think. And it's some of the trends also that they're seeing nationally, we're seeing here in Quincy. Parents are still confused when to keep kids home from school when they're too sick to go to school. And they've been really clear around the COVID expectations are gone. If you have a fever over 100, or if you have diarrhea or vomiting, there's the 24-hour rule. Other than that, you can come to school. We're seeing our attendance this year has increased to we're at 70% right now, attendance rate. And I think we're also seeing that kiddos are just opting to stay home. They'll get their assignments online and they're just opting not to come in person sometimes. So,
And they have that option?
well, yeah, because all of our platforms, all of our curriculum, everything is online. So we are still battling with attendance, but we are seeing every year though in Quincy, we have seen it improve since we've come out, since the pandemic. Is it where we want it to be? No, not at all. But we have seen it positive gains every year since the pandemic, but it's nowhere near where we want it to be. But every school district or every school in our district is focusing on it right now.
And then all of the things that they want to try and keep up in their standards, I didn't see anything yet yet I heard we were working on the fact that we would have Spanish teaching
So
to the English.
we are exploring, and that meeting is coming up in January. Excuse me, when is Victoria? January 17th. And if any board member would like to participate on that work group, we have, one board member would absolutely, be more than welcome to participate on that. But we're exploring dual language starting on the 17th.
Okay.
Yep.
And one other question, that's it.
Sure.
In the CTE, I was reading through their 4-year planning requirements, and I wanted to know, why was it that they had to have a health science kit and mannequins that were anatomically correct for both adults and infants?
I'm gonna phone a
In
friend.
CTE.
I'm gonna phone a friend on this one because we have our medical pathway, which is a CTE program.
Uh-huh.
So, our children in fire science and some of the health occupations, they're certified in CPR, correct? Especially
Correct.
and they need mannequins to practice CPR on.
Mhm.
So I've seen the mannequins in our fire science department
I've
as
seen
well.
those.
So that's part of the plan and part of the curriculum that we need to purchase. Elizabeth, anything else you want to add to
We have
that?
our health science.
Yeah.
Classes where, they're learning about all sorts of different health science career pathways. And so we have a mannequin in that space. And so even if it's just kind of thinking about, if we were doing wound care, or if you
Mhm.
are practicing blood pressure or a transfer, something along
Uh-huh.
those lines, we really want to train them as if they were in the field.
And in industry as well.
Yes, exactly. And then in addition to that, our advisory board from the community are really helpful about saying, and they often make recommendations for, this is something that you really need to have that might be an industry level expectation.
Mm-hmm.
We just visited Big Bend recently, and that was one of the really cool things that the kids interacted with were some of the mannequins, and even their heart rate could go up and so forth. So that was kind of cool to see, like the different effects of it.
Yeah.
So just kind of helpful.
Just
to kinda
curious.
get
I
that
No,
sense
those
of,
are great questions.
CTE, I
Yep.
just don't quite get the connection.
Science pathway.
Luckily, you're gonna get a,
Lots of opportunities.
Yeah,
and Elizabeth will
for
touch
asking.
on that a little bit more tonight as far as the career pathway. Yep.
that's it.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
I had a question on the AP report,
Yes.
page 46. There was a line item for Riverside Insights and online overage charge for $2,900. So overage is
What page is that? Page
not a
4?
fun word. Page 46. I know it's.
Wow,
it's
we're
a lot of-
digging.
Nice work, Casey. You really put that AP
I'm gonna
report
get
to
AI to help
Good
me
work.
look at that next time.
it. You know, we're gonna present on that.
I know.
How did that?
So TA, it's a COGAT, so it's for our highly capable assessment, which we start that in second grade with all students being tested annually. So we tested more students this year, which that would be the overage. So that's great. We don't just handpick students to test for highly capable in the Quincy School District. We test all students to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind in highly capable services.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right.
My question was, in comparison to like the school improvement plan summary and then the individual schools,
Mhm.
it's not very clear as far as those summary buckets. Like, for example,
Is that in the summary document?
yeah, like, for example, the key themes. Like you would really have to dig, but like, I guess I'm just trying to understand the individual building level plans, because even though it says Smarties, I don't know if you don't mind just giving me a quick like overview or introduction for maybe those who aren't familiar.
Sure. So with the school improvement planning process, our schools have to have 3 goals. So they have to have an ELA goal, a math goal, and then a goal in culture, safety, and belonging. And that's where you see some of the attendance goals, the behavior goals. But to even start with that, they have to start with the needs assessment. So when you look at a school improvement plan, Dana, you'll see the needs assessment, because our school improvement plans, they have to be data informed. We just can't say we're going to pick this strategy today because it feels good. The data has to really lead the buildings and the team to what strategies that they're going to pick. And then when they get into their math, they'll have that overarching math goal. So when you look at the school improvement plan, you'll see the big overall goal, and that usually has a numerical goal associated with it. And then under each one of those numerical goals,
Yeah, no,
there's strategies underneath it.
yeah.
So that summary document too, what I did for you guys, and I'm gonna try to do this more because it's a lot to read. I put all the AI, all the plans in AI and had it generate. These are the themes that all the buildings are showing.
I guess it's really easy to find the strategy, but I'm struggling to find the goal itself. Like, I don't know what the goal is, like, with the exception of evidence-based strategies, like SMART equal, whatever number. But then it lists a bunch of strategies. So I guess I'm struggling to find each
A
of the
goal.
goals based off the template document.
So for example, if you go to middle school, their goal is 1 on page maybe 10 of 22. During the 24-25 school year, UMS will increase the percentage of non-TPIP students reaching moderate high growth spring from 75.4 to 80%. So that main,
You said 10, it's actually page 11.
okay, 11. I don't have page numbers on mine.
So then the goal is
That first part is the goal,
TVIP students reaching growth.
correct? That's their
Very
percentage.
difficult way to say it, but.
And that's, yeah, and so their team, they meet generally, the middle school, I think they met for a day or two to review their data and then develop these goals and then develop the strategies. So that is the goal area for that strategy or for that one area.
Yeah, I guess all I'm saying is when you look at the summary and you see these themes, and then you look at the actual goal, I don't really see the alignment versus you want TBIP students specifically to improve the way they test on a state assessment versus the themes that we're seeing, which are wonderful. I know I'm sure it's written in a way for the state to be satisfied. But maybe the strategies is where the theme.
The strategies is where the themes come from. And again, that was ChatGPT pulling out, so you didn't have to read 22 pages of
Yeah.
each report, but if you want to go deeper down, like you're doing right now, you absolutely, I mean, that's for that too. And you're gonna get every building will come through where you can ask those reports, those questions too.
And the reason I mention this is because at the building level, you would hope that the staff all then adopt this school improvement plan and it's then
Yes.
a shared mission. And if it's not clear, then it's just like, how would you actually know what you're?
So they're
aiming for?
gonna talk about that tonight, and all of our buildings, what they do, and one thing I'm really proud that we're doing this year is there's a progress monitoring piece where you're looking at our data. So what's the progress you're using to monitor that? But also there's the process monitoring. So within the strategies, we're making sure that buildings have processes to monitor each one of those strategies to make sure that those are also getting done. Because you can set this goal, like where you hit 80%, that sounds great. But if you're not actually monitoring the process in which you're working to achieve those goals, it will never happen. So that's a big, not a big shift, but it's a shift for us this year. And they're building leadership teams, which is comprised of teachers, paras, some have parents on them. They're monitoring these goals, the process and progress monitoring monthly. So our buildings, I'm really proud of our buildings. They put so much work into these that if it was just an act of compliance to make the state happy, there's no way we would do it. They put way too much work into it. So that theme document was me playing with ChatGPT to help you guys with the reading load. And maybe
Well,
we'll go clear
accounts
through that.
payable, 96 pages? I don't think
A lot of
so.
bills. That's a lot of bills. It's a lot. Can you imagine getting that many bills
Well,
delivered
is
to your
the
house every
way to
month?
summarize it, like maybe have everything in one section and shows.
You're getting ahead of us because that's our second, that's our work session tonight.
Tedious.
Yeah, it's a lot. Dan,
Can I ask a question about the improvement goals? Sorry. Ghost in the room, but these are all 24, 25. So this is just everything we're seeing tonight is just the reporting apparatus to OSPI, correct? This is all stuff that's been in process since the beginning of the school year.
Correct.
Okay, is this a OSPI queued deadline that we need to send everything in by then?
Yes, we're approaching that deadline, and then we have to do a mid-year report to the state in January, and then in June there'll be another report to the state on how our buildings did. But the one thing too that we do school improvement planning in Quincy is these aren't just put on a shelf once they're done, like where you're indicating, Dana, they're living documents. So these are also live links. So as you go back on the website, they'll be updated as the buildings continue to modify and work on them.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are really great questions.
Hey, Chad.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, excuse me.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, so first we have a motion and a second. We have a vote. Aye.
All in favor?
All in favor, excuse me, sorry.
I'll get you a script.
My first day.
You're doing great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? All right, we've adopted the consent agenda. And then the first item meeting. Quincy High School building report, Felicia? Mrs. Becker?
And team.
And team, pardon, sorry.
That's right.
Well, Mike's picked that up pretty well.
Tenure is really getting off on it.
You bet.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for being in our building today and for having us and giving us a chance to present on what we've been working on. So you can read through the different goal areas and we'll kind of each take turns kind of talking through those, but I did want to share the process that we've gone through so far so you can kind of have a sense of how the SIP plan has started to come together in the building. And I would say it's in most ways, it's pretty similar to the other buildings. So we gathered together a variety of data, kind of big picture data. With the new approach to the student growth goals, every single one of our teachers had collected large sets of qualitative data from our students, where they used a survey and asked them questions like, what do you like about this content area? What is challenging for you? How do you learn best? What makes learning difficult for you? And those teachers then ran that student data through an AI program that our own Dr. Susan Rose and her husband have developed. Because for teachers to process through narratives from, up to 180 kids potentially and make sense of that data and find themes is an incredibly time-consuming process. So instead, we were able to feed that data into AI and have it print out reports. And so the teachers were setting their student growth goals based on what they knew about their own class needs, some initial big picture data, and also student voice data. And so in order to do our SIP plan, we collected all of the individual teacher student voice that they collected and ran a larger summary report. So we did one for ELA, one for STEM, so maybe humanities and a STEM, and then an overall school report. And we used that in conjunction with the bigger picture data like our SBA and STAR results, our WIDA scores. And so our SIP planning was done, our needs assessment was done by a large group of department chairs and other teacher leaders in the building. We also had some paras and admin assistants part of that conversation. And so the goals and the strategies were informed very heavily by student voice. So our SIP is unique in that way in that it's very centered on student voice data. It's a work in progress for sure. We're a little later than everybody else because we're also going through our 6-year accreditation cycle. And the SIP planning it has to be a part of the accreditation cycle. So where we're at right now is we have put together a draft of our SIP based on student voice data. And we have shared that out with our staff to get feedback. And we also shared our goals and our strategies out with our parent advisory committee and got some good feedback, especially around our math strategies that we'll be bringing back to our math team to make some adjustments. So it's kind of one of those things, again, a great example of, like Nick said, it's a living document. We want to be responsive to the feedback of all of our stakeholders, and that parent voice is just really as important as the student voice piece too. So this is really teacher, student, parent designed. And so we've got actually 4 goals instead of 3. And that is for us because as the high school, it doesn't feel responsible to not have, in addition to math, ELA, and SEL, to have that 13th year, that pathway to graduation and beyond. We have got to have that be a focus for us in our building. So we've got some folks who are going to kind of share through some of these strategies. So I think we've got Christina first.
Our goal number 2 is the culture of safety and belonging. We used the Panorama survey primarily, along with, like Ms. Becker said, our student voice survey. And our goal is that by the next administration of the Panorama Survey to increase the student belonging from 37 to 47%. And the way that we want to do that is to continue building relationships with our students, because building relationships with students is a huge focus in our building all the time. We set some strategies by greeting students at the door, 4-to-1 positive interactions with our students, making sure we know student names, those sorts of things. And we're already doing that, but we're just making sure that we're doing more of that. Also, students indicated that they would like to have more hands-on instruction, more collaborative opportunities. And so just making sure that we're designing our coursework around those opportunities for students.
Great. So I want to talk about the math goal under growth and mastery of priority standards. Again, a theme that came through in our student voice data that was echoed by teachers and parents was that need for hands-on learning, clear instruction, teacher support, doing math that feels relatable and connected to the real world to engage kids in their math learning. Kids named that they preferred working together collaboratively, and that it was important for them to be receiving timely feedback from their teachers. So we set a goal based on our SBA scores that by May 2025, our student overall proficiency in math will increase from 14.2% to 20%. And the Math Smarter Balanced assessment mainly tests algebra, like Algebra 1 pretty heavily. So that's kind of the main focus of the test. But these are strategies that we want to see applied across our STEM classes. So teachers using the strategy of marking the text for math and science to build math knowledge and confidence. So we've seen where kids are saying like, I don't know how to unpack a story problem. And so really needing to provide more support and more practice in that area. And vocab is a really big piece of that. And then second strategy, teachers will utilize a variety of academic discourse routines to increase comprehension and content-specific vocabulary acquisition. So again, students naming that being able to work hands-on, work together, that includes being able to talk to each other and practice voicing mathematical thinking and algebraic thinking. And so having really rich tasks for them to do where they're working together and talking deeply about math is really, we're hopeful that that's going to be a powerful lever for us. And just to give you an example of how we get from that kind of like big goal down to the teacher and student level, my teachers, when I've met with them, are naming their instructional focus. I've had several recent observations where the instructional focus is around refining kind of total participation, talk strategies for kids. And then I go in and watch and we talk about what went well and what do we want to try to work on. So the kid experience is changing as a result of us naming that strategy. So it's a focus for professional growth for the teachers that we're working on together and that they're working on within their teams as well. Oh, we got literacy next.
All right. So we're working on, our goal is by May 2025, students' overall proficiency in ELA SBA will increase from 54.3% to 60%. This is an area of strength for us as a district and as a building. We typically have scores that are at or above the state level. And I think that's because of some continued focus on a few things. Number one, we've got Avid, and you guys have seen the successes with Avid and all the Avid strategies that are utilized kind of at bedrock in classrooms, but wanting to continue using those and fostering them and improving them. Kids specifically named like note-taking and being able to really, have a record of their thinking and use that. One kid called it a cheat sheet. I think he meant cheat sheet, but it's okay. In some of the student voice feedback that we were looking at. And so a strategy like a focus notes is really, really important for students to have and know and be able to take themselves beyond here for processing. Elevation strategies are specific to multilingual learners, but they're just good strategies for everyone. And they actually, through the elevation system, take their WIDA scores, take the individual student and look at where their areas of growth are and match strategies. And then teachers can go ahead and use that in their classrooms. So wanting to continue to use both of those to keep our scores high, maybe getting them higher, wanting, of course, to exit more kids from WIDA. And then I think that one of the biggest shifts we did as a high school this year is we've done a lot of work around the science of reading and have a very targeted, very specific class for our kids who are not reading at grade level, that are at like a decoding level of need. It's not a ton of kids, but it's certainly more kids than we would ever want to graduate without having those skills. That's in the room actually next door, and she does a tremendous job, and I'm already hearing some really powerful feedback from kids that are like, oh, this is how, okay, I got it. And the second strategy is providing in context academic and domain specific vocabulary instruction. Vocabulary continues to be an important thing that we need to build through intentional reading strategies, reading for fun, and also intentional vocabulary strategies across the content, especially in places like that have very specific vocab, like a career and technical education class or a science class. And from our student data, they noted that some of the most powerful learning they did was when they got some intentional vocabulary instructions. Okay, for the next goal, it's goal area number 5, pathways to graduation and beyond. So for this one, it's by the next update of our ERDC, and ERDC stands for Educational Research and Data Center. Generated post-secondary data, the percentage of students enrolled in the first year of post-secondary programming after high school graduation will increase from 44% to 50%. When they talk about enrolling in that post-secondary programming, they're talking about community college, 4-year schools, apprenticeships, those different types of experiences, anything kind of post-secondary that they would register. What we're finding is that, students are expressing really high levels of interest in their post-secondary programs, but then once they leave the high school, their actual entry into those programs is not as high as how they've expressed interest. And so looking at our knowledge of student data, our personal statement data that we've collected, just a whole slew of it, which is really great. Our students are telling us that while we have these opportunities to learn about pathways, we really need kind of that one-on-one time, that extra handholding and support to walk them through the FAFSA process or WASA process, to walk them through a college application. We provide a lot of those supports already, but sometimes we make them optional. And I think that we're starting to really realize our students, they want to make it, so something that we would go through our advisory classes. And so that's kind of the strategies. The group that kind of looked at this goal were our CT department head, CT coordinator, our counselors, our AVID lead, just some wonderful different people that are, hearing those student voices. And so the strategies they talked about is we've got to carve out time in advisory classes to really walk students through financial aid. And then we've got to brainstorm with our wonderful parents about how do we make more of those opportunities available to get them through their part, just to remove as many obstacles as possible is really important, so that they can proceed to that next step. The second strategy is completing a college or post-secondary application with support. So it seems easy at first, and even like the community college ones might seem easy, but you get stuck on one question. And if you don't have someone in your house that's been through that process or feel comfortable asking someone, that can really be a barrier. So we want to really support students, whatever their endeavor is, even if it's an apprenticeship, that we can get them that support. So that team's kind of talked about next steps of where can we engage resources. We have an amazing partner with Big Bend that comes in and does that one-on-one. So it's time to stop doing it one-on-one. Well, I mean, we'll still do it, but really make it available for everybody system-wide. So that's the goal with that strategy. I'll let please.
Okay. Our next part of the report, Nick had shared that the board was curious about ways in which the high school interacts and connects with the community. So we kind of divided up the different kind of elements of community connections and listed out as many things as we could think of under those categories. And we can certainly highlight some of those things, but I also want to honor your time and make sure that we've got questions. We kind of talked more about the SIP plan since there were some questions initially. So I'm happy to keep going, or we can pause and take questions about the SIP plan, whatever you guys are like kind of needing right now. That I'm ready, like, bring it on.
I can start.
Okay,
So we haven't seen your SIP plan, right?
right.
That's okay. Yeah, I do have a few questions, but I definitely will like take breaks and let you guys jump in. Just looking at the first goal mentioned, goal area 2 for culture of safety and belonging. You mentioned quite a few different data sources, and I was just hoping you can clarify, because you mentioned Panorama, then maybe a local effort with AI. So if you don't mind just expanding on the data sources specifically.
Just in general that we use for the needs assessment as a
Yeah,
whole.
you mentioned a few, yeah.
Yeah, so we looked at, and these guys, help me if I forget, there was a lot. And we actually jigsawed it. So we had a group that was in our goal area of culture and safety belonging, looking at a data set. And that included discipline data, and we looked at current discipline data compared to last year, some like trend data. We looked at survey data from Panorama, is that correct?
Yep.
Can you remind me what else we
We
looked
did
at?
Swiss discipline for last year and this year, and then what has happened so far this year. Trying to see what trends we had, and then Panorama survey from students and parents, and then we also did the student story survey. And
What?
Stories.
that was the AI that Dr. Rose
Do
did.
you want to see a sample of the AI report?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we used all of that to kind of see what trends, and so there were
Really high level.
it was one team that looked at all of that, but there were 3 teams at that table that looked at the 3 different surveys to see what trends we saw. And that's where we saw the culture of safety and belonging, where kids were kind of feeling accepted within the classroom, but then also the fact that they were wanting the hands-on collaborative work. So that was how we got our goal, but then how we got the 2 strategies in order to meet that goal.
For this specific, oh, sorry,
No,
Sorry.
no, it's a follow-up to this, so
yeah.
continue.
For this specific one, how is the data being safeguarded? Usually
So
there's some sort of contract, there's some sort of awareness from the board every time students are surveyed, so I just like some follow-up to that.
So you want to hear about the platforms?
The platform, and how did we get into an agreement with?
To do the student story version.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and you can just jump in where I maybe leave
Yep.
goals out. So I met with Allison and Nick and talked about wanting to use it for student growth goals. And so this year, as required by the state, every single teacher had to say before they made their student growth goal that they had taken student voice. They could not make their evaluation goal without doing that. It's kind of a
student voice.
They had to, yeah,
Student
they had to
voice.
collect
How do they
student
feel about
voice.
their learning? How do they feel about math? What's their strengths? What their areas
Yeah,
of
so they
growth?
couldn't just say like, well, I want our math scores to increase from 20 to whatever, 30, right? They'd have to say, well, what do students want it to be? How do students want it to be informed? And also family voice. And so this has been a shift. And so I knew that this was going to be really stressful for teachers. And so I worked this summer to develop something that they could go out and use a Google form in their classroom like they would have normally done. But instead of having them read through the 180 surveys and try to theme it out themselves, we use this platform. So the platform is a frozen model. It's completely safe. The data deletes immediately afterward. It's not held. And it was created with that in mind, because as I was looking at trying to, develop it this summer, I was really noticing that learning GPT wasn't safe.
FERPA compliant.
Right. I was looking at FERPA and COPA. So yeah, I don't know, other than talking with them just about using it with the high school, if like another agreement needs to be made, but that's what happened. And so it's just a pilot to try to make it easier for teachers. And then I, had talked with Principal Becker about it. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we're getting these really interesting results where kids are actually being able to speak truth to their teachers. It's not even that the responses are like so profound, right? Like a kid's like, please explain math more clearly to me. Like, yes, of course. But it helped the teachers really understand, like, actually, this is what the kids want, and this is how you need to be adjusting your instruction for that.
And because of the
And
frozen
then, sorry, I'm sorry.
and because of the frozen model, and it wasn't like a healthy youth survey, it wasn't a Likert scale, it was something that our teachers were using to gather that student perspective data for their SIFs, and it's completely optional too. If the kids don't want to take it, they don't have to. But we didn't put it that same level of survey that we would, even Panorama or Healthy Youth.
How many questions is the survey?
Usually 5 to 6. Yeah, sometimes less.
It was,
Three.
it was
Take it
based
step
by
by step.
teacher, so each teacher was creating their own survey.
For the panorama survey, I mean, do you feel that that's trustworthy data? I mean, because I've seen some of that at different levels and it's like, I don't know, you want to like, whatever in mind was the kid in that morning when he took it and it's a snapshot in time, right?
I think
Um,
I think the way that I think about that data is like, we can kind of go down the rabbit hole of like, well, are these good questions, or was this the right day, or did this kid take it seriously? I think our N size is large enough where we can still notice themes. Like we can still notice where our scores are really low or really high. And I think that's kind of where the leverage points are. It's the messy middle where it becomes less helpful.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we see a lot more value. And the student voice data that we've collected is every single kid, a unique experience, how they're feeling about each one of their classes. And then it's filtered through the frame of the teacher, who's the content expert, and the student expert. That feels so much more actionable than like some of the panorama data.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
thought by the student going into.
yeah,
Wait.
and they write,
My
it's
God.
like a narrative response. It's not a Likert scale. So kids are writing multiple sentences responding to each of these questions.
And
Is this just at the high school?
right now, yeah,
It also has a PII blocker, so even if teachers had put personally identifiable information in there, like medical or names, it
it
just
redacts
redacts it in
that.
the report. So it's
Yeah.
very, very safe. And it was designed by an educator for educators. A person who was going to be in the principalship who was worried about being in trouble for not doing things the right way.
and we're really-
But really, I think to your point, like that's why it was created, right? I have given surveys, I've been in charge of testing for the past 2 years. Year after year, it's like, oh God, I have to get through this, right? And then I always make the joke that like Taco Bell offers me $5,000 on a regular basis to complete a survey, and I'm like, I don't have time for this, right? And I've got a kid in college. So I wanted us to get to the truth of what kids were thinking and feeling in classes, and AI has offered us a way to do that. That's very actionable. The report tells us what to do. It gives us some strategies. It's a thought partner for us.
Mhm.
And the experiences that kids have when people actually ask them what they want and need, and it's not like on a scale of 1 to 5, how much hope do you have? When it's actually like, no, tell me, what do you need out of
What
math?
makes you feel
What makes you
hopeful
feel
that we
hopeful?
could recreate in the classroom?
So we were just inspired to try to get to that
That's
voice.
very understandable. I mean, it makes sense for any kind of strategic plan. You really do need feedback.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
more than the students? I think where my concern is, I mean, if your AI program is successful, likely it'll become a company, and all kudos to you. That'd be amazing that it started in Quincy, but I guess the fact that there's no actual agreement that does safeguard the youth, that does concern me.
Yeah,
I
I think that's something we
definitely
could
think there needs
certainly
to be
explore.
something in
Mhm.
writing
Yeah.
that does show that
Mhm.
Yeah.
the names were redacted, it's
Yeah.
deleted data, nothing will be sold.
It's really good feedback.
User data is so
Yeah.
important to just
Mhm.
safeguard. I was gonna ask also, what's your sample size for this?
For the school.
The student story.
The whole. school.
875.
So was it optional if you got all the students? I wouldn't believe it was optional if then you got 100% of students.
I mean, it really was just a natural, like it's an organic thing that people do typically at the beginning of the year anyway. So for most people, they had a Google form that they were gonna send out. The only thing that was different is that they were able to analyze it more quickly. It wasn't, I mean.
I guess we
it
weren't
was-
looking at it as the same as a survey. I mean, I think what your points that you're bringing are pretty interesting, and that we could
Mhm.
have some internal conversations as we starting to use AI a little bit more in this sense. And really what it was a way to really understand how our students are experiencing school outside the Likert scale as a 1 through 5, but
Yeah.
I hear your concern. I
This
think
is a
that's a
great way to
real,
do a mass focus group, which is amazing. I'm a data nerd myself.
Yeah.
But
but I hear what you're
but there's a
saying.
lot of
Mhm.
questionable ethical things to consider in the
Yep.
future.
Well,
Yeah.
not only,
I'd agree.
we're doing another survey. Like,
Yeah.
that would like for the perspective of the kids are like, oh, another one, like you say, and it's like. At some point, they have to stop getting questioned
Well,
about their moves.
I think-
Does that get shared out to the student body? To present like,
So-
hey, this is what you guys told us?
Yeah, actually, what was really interesting is teachers on an individual basis that engaged kids in this process. So I know like Mrs. Santana showed the report to kids and said, okay, it's saying these are the things we need to work on in the class. What do you guys think? And the kids were like, oh yeah, that's the thing we need to work on in the class. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know,
It's a positive thing so far.
Yeah, I'm a-
Well, but I think as we are on the bleeding edge of a lot
Yeah.
of these things,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that feedback is worth for us having some internal
Yeah,
conversations
absolutely.
Well,
around.
and the other thing you said is that it's state mandated that the teachers talk about what the kids want.
yeah, so they cannot
To make their TPEP.
Their goal is
Knowledge
basically
of
to
students.
Provide any other resources, way.
No.
No, no,
No. It's in August,
no.
because I was like,
Well, and we were even on our way to an AI conference and I'm building a chat GPT to give like feedback on growth goals.
Yeah.
And I'm building this AI bot and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? The state asked us to do this, but yes,
But
it
they
is kind of,
didn't
like I
do it.
said, it's kind of the wild, wild west right now as far as how we respond to some of these things. But the one thing I really appreciate, I've read some of the comprehensive report or the summary reports. You know, as a principal or even a superintendent, when I see the Likert scale, like what does a 3 really mean? You know, and if I just took the panorama data and like only at face value, 47 or 30% of our kids don't feel that they belong. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You know, when you look
It's like
at
a
this,
median average.
it's
How do you
that's
interpret?
that's the 4 and the 5s. So that's the only way we look at that data. We don't consider the middle. You know, you look at that middle, it's 40% of the kids.
It's hard
Somewhat.
because
What does somewhat mean? Like
'cause
what
you
does somewhat
can-
mean to a high
the
school?
way that you can interpret that is like, well, a large chunk of our kids don't feel strongly one way or the other. I don't know, you know, how do you take
Teenage.
action with that,
Right.
right? So,
Teenage.
And
yeah.
they took it.
They don't care. And
So-
it depends on.
well, some of them care a lot and some of them don't, and some of them are in the middle. So I think it's
Really?
challenging. And again, you know, the panorama data is sort of like one piece in a cornucopia of information. And so like, how do we bring all of that together and synthesize it, make sense of it, and then decide as a team, what is it that we really value and how do we make decisions around
Yeah.
that? So.
I think that's the most exciting thing about with the power of AI, is, you know, that qualitative data, listening to people's really true experiences about how they are navigating any system, whether it's healthcare, education, but to survey and take into account
Yeah.
every voice with quality, it's impossible. We don't have the researchers in the district to do that, but the AI tool, you do have that ability to really get some themes that make that survey data meaningful and actionable. And that's the most important thing. I think people are so tired of surveys because we take that Likert scale survey and it's not necessarily actionable, but what the students are telling us in a themed
Yes.
way, we can take action on that, if that makes sense.
I guess I also want to be careful though, that we aren't being dictated by the children on how we teach the children.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes, but I think that is in part why we have the experts in the room,
Right.
teaching skill wise and content wise, making sense of a variety of data, including student voice. So it's that kind of, we have a diverse set of information that we're looking at. Student voice, we feel is an important one to prioritize, but it isn't the only piece. And then making good decisions about what are the strategies, like we can set a meaty goal that's got percentages in it, but like how, kind of to your question, like how do we move the needle? What's the thing that's actually going to change that outcome for us? And so we need the teachers to weigh in on that because they're going to be the ones who then are taking the strategies into the classroom. And if they don't have buy-in to that, then that process piece of the SIP plan falls apart.
And we looked in depth in Swiss data and Panorama and all the other data. It was the student voice was one piece of all of the other data as well.
And STAR and
Our
SBA.
SBA,
H2P,
yeah,
so,
focus groups.
Yeah.
So
I was just talking about the data at my table. There was
So much data.
3 other tables, so it was a lot of data. It wasn't only student voice, but it was all student centered.
And a little context.
yeah.
So I can add a little context to this. So I think we're using survey as the word now because we have like put all that data together.
Sure.
But in years past, ever since COVID, we've been doing check-in with the students, like weekly. Teachers are encouraged to check in with your students, see how they're doing. So students, if you ask a student, they're like, oh, that was like a survey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's like a weekly thing teachers are trying to do to check and see how kids are doing. And we've just added a few more questions to it, and it wasn't long, but just more perspective on like how are you seeing your education? So I honestly, I don't think kids even like realize like, hey, this is a survey, this is already something they've been doing. But we have a chance to harvest that now and really listen for that partnership with our students.
Yeah, the SEL check-in, Mrs. Rasmussen does it every week and she's been doing it for many years. And the kids don't experience it like they would like a survey and advisory. They experience it like Mrs. Rasmussen is wondering about me. And the last question of every one of her weekly check-ins is there something I need to know and check in on? And it's really nice for a teacher like her or a teacher like Mrs. Murray, who has a lot of students and she does them and she's very intentional about it. If she gets busy, if something else happens, she can just go through it really quickly and make sure that she's checking in with kids and getting their needs met and not missing anything. So yeah, I think, and also the platform, you can upload other forms like an essay or things like that. So yeah, I think survey does limit it as a definition. So anyway, it's been helpful and we feel like we're meeting the needs of our kids better. So.
Other
Any
question?
questions from the board?
I just had a comment, like, your goals, the increases, I think those are reasonable, like, I applaud you for. Those look like very targeted numbers.
Thank you.
So.
It's that tight balance of like, we want it to feel doable, but also we want it to be a meaty, challenging goal because really, we're not going to throw this away at the end of the year and start from scratch. A lot of these things have been going on for a while. It's just about refining. And a lot of the refinement that we need to do is in that monitoring piece.
Yeah.
Is the strategy that we're trying getting us the gains that we're hoping for?
Good.
This might be more of a question for Nick, but I know we get these reports and we do see these goals. And I think at the end of the year, we'll see, or maybe the new year, we'll see how you guys did, but some of these data sources won't be annually, they're biannual.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever get an actual summary report where we're able to see trend data, was it accomplished or not, but I just don't want this to be an empty goal that's written really nicely. It's like we're actually achieving it or we didn't, but we can see every quarter or every year if we're passing or failing.
Dan, that's a really great thought. And one thing that I am, with the school improvement planning process that all the schools are leaning so authentically into that, I think it'd be a disservice if we didn't, and they do have to do an annual end of year report about the progress that was made. There isn't a reason why we can't come back and say, this is what we saw. And this is, and even link, last year's plan to this year's plan. This is where the results from last year. And as a result, these are the modifications that we're making to the plan this year.
But I think that piece that's a challenge for us that we're working on right now is kind of to your point. These are big lagging measures. Like we won't see the results until spring or summer, or maybe a couple of years from now. We have to be thoughtful and creative about what are the checks that we can create internally so that we can tell if we're making moves in the right direction. Otherwise, it's sort of that black box of implementation. So yeah. Thank you for your questions.
And I do want to just, this high school is the high school report, and I really appreciate the board's depth and the questions that and we are thinking about this. It's a really good example of the intentional work that's happening in every school. But the way that they're highlighting, they're centering student with their plan and student voice, it is really impressive. And just thank you for the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you for your.
But yeah, there's so much work going on. There's no way we're going to let this sit on a shelf.
We're gonna get off the stage.
Okay, thank you guys. Next is the PBIS report by DJ.
Thank you for having me. We're going to go over a brief. It will not be as long as the high school. That thorough with data, that was.
I wouldn't say that now. They might have some questions.
We're good, really.
Okay, we're ready.
Ready, man.
So really, it's going to be about the positive behavior intervention supports that we have throughout our district. It's not anything new, but we didn't get a general overview last year. So we have our 4 new board members. So we wanted to come back and really kind of highlight some of the work that we're doing and what is PBIS. So again, it is positive behavior intervention supports. It is used throughout our district. And it really ties into our culture of safety and belonging strategic goal, making sure that each student feels culturally accepted, safe, seen, and heard, and celebrated to a positive community, positive learning community. It really does factor into safety and culture of belonging because it's something that we're trying to create as a culture, as an atmosphere. It is not a program. It's not something that you're gonna go and implement. And it is really just a framework for better teaching better habits, for building better habits throughout the district, through our school-wide approach. And it's creating that positive school climate that we're looking for. It promotes structured, predictable, and safe environments for all students. And it's one of the things that we have found that helps engage students that may have a hard time engaging. The primary outcomes is to increase academic performance, like I said, on-task behavior, staff retention. We are also trying to decrease the office referrals, suspensions, disruptive classroom behavior. It is the multi-tiered system of support that really addresses this because as we go through the next slide. Got to shrink it down a little bit. There really is 3 tiers of implementation here. Can you shrink it down so we can get that tier?
Sorry about that.
So on the first tier, we have 100% of your students that are getting us support, and every tier builds on itself. So we have rules and expectations for every student. When we know through research that there's going to be a group of them here in this tier 2 that may need some extra support. And so we want to have, in addition to, I did not put that, I don't know. I'm not that fancy.
You don't even know how fancy.
I did not put that, I promise you. So really, every tier builds on itself. We do not stop giving tier 1 supports after they move to a tier. Each tier has an entrance and exit criteria. Those criteria are monitored by a PBIS team there in each building. We only skip tiers in extreme cases. If there's a student with some kind of mental health issue or something going on in their life that we need to maybe push them through so that they can get extra supports. These tiers are really just a visual model of supporting students at their where they are at and at different levels. So I want to give a good, just a brief understanding of each tier and what you would see if you were to go into a building or understanding what makes up these tiers. So showing respect, make good decisions, solve problems. Those are 3 school personal standards. So every student has those 3 personal standards that we're expecting throughout the day. We have a process for misbehavior management. We have a flow chart that is created by each building. It is now district-wide, and they're all aligned. Those are posted out to the teachers so they understand what to do. And I didn't add any links here, but I can go back and add those links that way you guys can see them. But really, it's a flow chart to say what's office managed, what's teacher managed, and then being able to give a teacher a kind of that blueprint of what to do next if something happens in their classroom. Student expectation, behavior matrix. We have, again, building created. So those PBIS teams are creating these matrices so that they can have students understand what to do in the hallway, what to do at lunch, what to do at recess, and what those expectations are. Tier 1 also incorporates a social emotional instruction. And then the PBIS reward, which is the feedback system and student acknowledgement. We have Jack Bucks. We have them on the bus as well. Throughout the district, we have some kind of reward system so they can get recognized for their positive behavior. And then the data informed system for decision making, or SWIS. SWIS is the key to all of this, these tiers. So we're looking at SWIS like what the high school did, so we can collect data and understand either where the problem is, analyze how to intervene, and then be able to make decisions in entering or exiting a student throughout a tier. On tier 2, so all of those things are in place. If we still have a student that has who is misbehaving or has some challenges within the classroom, after PBIS team goes through and collects that data and figures out what they're going to do, they would be targeted for a small group or individual intervention, and really is going to provide the student with additional support. That's all tier 2 is. We're just going to say, hey, and sometimes they're grouped up. We might have a group of students who are consistently late, and then we can have an intervention group to be able to address that need. And we can group those students up in a small group and kind of intervene at the same time. Sometimes it's just one individual who's having a particular issue, and then they can have some kind of maybe speak with the counselor, maybe have a check in, check out, or increase home to school communication. And worst case scenarios for tier 2 is a behavior plan. We might have some kind of behavior contract that is written up from school to the parent, and then the students agreeing to use it. All of this has to be monitored, and so is used for our PBIS teams are gathering this information, or MTSS teams, they're gathering this information and trying to make sure that we are seeing if this intervention has a positive impact to change the behavior. Ideally, when we provide an intervention, we want them to go back to a tier 1 and not have to use that intervention anymore. In some cases, we have a tier 3, where if this is no longer working, this is not helping that student, we'll have an intensive plan for that student. And that's that tier 3 support. It's really highly personalized support, and for students with complex needs. This particular tier, we usually see with some kind of mental health issue that requires an individual plan, or just a severe behavioral challenges within a classroom. And this, most of the time, as an individual plan will include some kind of district counselor, a social worker, to help with maybe family needs at home, mental health therapists that we have in district, or even a referral for mental health therapists out of the district. This tier right here is usually research-based, has about 5% of your student population will be in this tier receiving these supports. Now, this doesn't mean that a student who is receiving tier 3 interventions is no longer receiving tier 2 interventions or getting the classroom 100% tier 1 interventions. This student is we're trying to get this student to have all of the different supports that we offer within a school district, which becomes really challenging for administrators and teams within our school building, because if you have about 5% if you have 5 students in a school of 100, that takes 90% of the time and resources that a building can provide. So a lot of the times when we see this, we do feel the strain within our buildings. SWIS is how we have monitor those data. Like I said before, teachers can enter referrals directly, and really happy to say that all district-wide, we implemented that last year. So we finally, the high school's on board, junior high, and then all elementaries are using Swiss data, and they have some kind of processing that they do with that. It really breaks down the referral rates by the included student demographic data. There's so much to Swiss that you can break down. I'm going to show you just a couple that I look for as far as district-wide what I'm looking for, so you can change it there. And it's total referrals by month. This is the one I look at monthly just to kind of get an idea of what is happening throughout our district. So so this was just up to December 2nd. In October, you could see we had an influx for K-5, 134 referrals. But that's spread out over 5 schools. So what did we say? That was 15. Can't remember what it was.
The 71 was about 4 a day.
4 a day.
That seems.
4 referrals? No.
It's not when you have.
Not when you have 300 kiddos. I mean, you think about,
Yeah, 1,500 kids.
Look at the day, you have 300 kiddos, 300 kids run by you, 4 of them did something that might have required a referral.
And a
So
referral, when you go, so you could dive deeper into this, which PBIS teams do. These referrals can be tardy, like for the high school, it could be a tardy, it could be.
which is the number one.
Which
referral.
it is the number one in Swiss data is tardies, yeah. You can go to the next slide. So daily average referrals by month for QMS was 3, 9, 17, 14.
What's so special about October?
October is historically, I've been an administrator for a long time, and
October still has
October is
trauma.
batten down the
Yeah.
mountains and try to get through it. The polish of the new school year is worn off. The routines have set in. Kids are testing the routines that if you've tried to establish. October historically, it's always a high month, and May will also.
May is the
be
next
equally
one,
high.
yeah.
I think it's a way also you start to see like the systems that we have, like the tier 1 and tier 2, like in place, are they working?
Yeah.
And there's usually some adjustment that needs to be made and how we're managing
Responding.
kid behavior, exactly. And so
Yeah.
then there's an adjustment and then you see like it gets better.
And then high school, you can see the numbers here.
Barely any.
September and October, pretty close there together.
Mostly tardies.
At least the numbers are lower.
Yeah, they do drop.
And again, the Swiss data, you could dive deep into that Swiss data. For example, you can have 100 referrals, which has happened. You can have 100 referrals, and when you start diving into where those are coming from, not only can you see, oh, they're playground referrals, but you can see it. You can also dive deeper and say, you know what, out of those 100, we have 2 kids who have 70 of them. So majority of the kids are good. We need to really start diving into how we can support these 2 individuals. And so it really helps teams to go deeper than what I'm showing you here.
And we really want, even those kiddos, our students who are a little bit more
Challenging.
and more referrals. We still want that data put in because that's still, without the data, we can't respond to it. So we will continue to put that referrals in just so we can make sure that we have accurate data on because when we're intervening with that student and the referrals drop, well, then something's working. And we want to then correlate it back to that data to say, well, when we did this, the referrals dropped on this one particular student. Let's continue that intervention.
Yeah. And I think that's the challenging part. A lot of times teachers get tired, and if they have a particular student in their classroom and they give up, maybe they give up on reporting and putting it into Swiss, and that's where it gets hard because we have to track. And that's one of the district-wide commitments as well. Again, Swiss this is our first full year with everybody on board. We came in late with elementary. And so really refining our use of Swiss and going through that data with our teams at the building level. That's what we're going to be committed to doing. The district-wide commitments, we have an MTSS leadership team that looks at all of these things. And so these are some of the things that have come out of that team. We are committed to the TFI, which is a tiered fidelity inventory. So that is a kind of a checklist that each building goes through to see if they're hitting, do they have the flow chart? Do they have the matrix in place? Are they looking at, do they have a team that is meeting regularly and looking at this data and making informed decisions?
And what this helps us do too, sorry, DJ.
That's okay.
Is, we have students that not only, that they change elementaries or they're not always in the same building too. It helps that if they go to Pioneer or if they go to Mountain View, those expectations are the exact same behavior expectations. The office managed versus classroom managed are the same. When they go to the high school, the office managed versus the classroom management from middle school to high school are very, very similar. The expectations are very similar. So it really creates that consistency and cohesion across the districts on how we're managing student behavior or addressing or responding to student behavior.
And that is something new over the last 3 years that we've committed to, trying to get everybody district-wide. We are also committed to using Flint Simonson for support with student management. So he's a student behavior specialist who helps out. And he actually is one of the founders of PBIS and was. And so anyway, he comes in. Allison actually has a great relationship with him, worked with him at a different district. And so, so we've been able to connect with him. About 3 years ago, started bringing him in. So that's how I got to know him. But we also are committed to furthering developing the tier 2 and tier 3. Now, although I tell you all these great things about tier 2 and tier 3, we still have a lot of work to do to refine those processes. And making sure that we are able to staff some of these interventions and personnel and resources are still limited. And so trying to be creative on how to get everybody served at tier 2 in a meaningful way and checking the data and meeting together on these students on tier 3. It's still something that we're trying to refine and go through. And then continuing to develop PBS on the bus. We actually started that 2 years ago. So all of the bus drivers are trained on PBS. They give bus bucks that can be used now at the elementary school mainly, but they can use them anywhere. And so trying to get this district-wide to make sure that we have a good positive experience for our students is something that we're looking forward to do. And that's it. Short and sweet. Any questions?
I do,
Yeah.
kind of.
But are you asking it because you just want to try to go?
No.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. If you don't have any questions, I can speak to ask.
1, 2, and 3 thing.
Yeah.
And in situations I've observed that there's probably likely times where there's a tier 3 student in a classroom that is being disruptive and difficult. And because we are requiring of ourselves or however it is that we still provide that tier 1 and tier 2, they're being allowed to stay in that classroom.
So I'll say, first of all, it's not a tier 3 student. It's a student that is having tier 3 supports. And I want to make that distinction because we don't want to label those kids as tier 3 students.
Okay.
It's a student that is now utilizing all supports available that we have for themselves.
Okay.
And second, yes, although that student who's receiving tier 3 supports, who may be seeking a mental health counselor or a therapist, is in that classroom, we do want to include them in there so that they can learn the expectations. We don't want to remove them from that situation.
By the detriment of problems they're causing with the rest of the students?
So, but what we do have are emergency plans and crisis plans that teachers and buildings go through. So we're giving the student the opportunity to meet those expectations within the classroom. Maybe there's a blowout, a chair gets thrown or whatever happens, then we have to go through that plan. And that is all included in those intensive individualized plans that we see in tier 3 and that teams are creating. It's unfortunate those things are happening. Again, it's not happening district-wide, but that one student it really takes a lot of time and energy away for the building to go through. So it is unfortunate. I'm not saying that, but we do have a process to remove that student and to address it through those plans.
And we still follow discipline matrix. If a student who, is exhibiting tier 3 behavior, depending on the situation, disciplines can still be applied. And we look at our discipline, and then if the student is a student with disability, Sunshine gets called in and You know, we have some students who have tier 3 behavior. They have a team of 12 people around them.
Mhm.
All working together from inside and outside the district. And it's a very, very small percentage of our students. You know, I would say 5%. We're probably right in that range, but that 5%, when you account for 3,200 students, that's a lot of students who can be pretty disruptive. But we also, you know, some of the students that, you know, one student in particular that comes to mind, was one of the most challenging students I've ever dealt with, and to the point where they had a one-on-one, and we just stuck to this plan to fidelity. And people want quick results from these, especially with these students, and that's just not the way it goes. And the student is now older in the high school, doing phenomenally well, doesn't have a para. But when I was in the middle of it, could I see that even a remote possibility? No, because I was in the muck of it. But without these really structured plans and behavior supports, it gives our students a fighting chance to get to that level. But it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice, and we do, you know, they need that practice within the classroom and peers. You know, of course, we are always monitoring that line of when does it become a disruption to the other kids in the class, and our principals, they have to make that judgment too, on when they're removed.
And that
they
is
do
one
get
of the
removed.
reasons why October is very traumatic. It's really hard. Those are hard months to go through.
That's a great question, though.
I got a question.
Yeah.
This may not fit. I understand that PBIS is a framework, but when I think of like a positive school climate, this whole idea of the culture of safety and belonging, I think of like literal safety fights, bullying, but I don't hear that in most of the reports when we're talking about this specific topic of culture, safety, and belonging. When does that play a role? Will that come later, maybe in our discussion conversations?
Are you referring to, you would have liked to seen that they do have that in Swiss, it says fighting, bullying. We could, I could add that.
How do we address it?
Talk about, but I mean,
Mhm.
like bullying is an issue. This is a very large school.
Mhm.
I guess I'd like to see those numbers and how.
I'm just concerned when none of the goals specifically address bullying, safety. We do have the great goal that the high school has where it's building relationships with staff, and we know that a trusted adult makes such a big difference. But like, that's where you would hope that they're like, feel that sense of belonging in their school and community by joining sports, clubs,
Mhm.
other church youth groups, like, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
when will that conversation happen, if not in PBIS conversation?
Mhm.
Maybe it doesn't fit because PBIS is a framework.
It doesn't mean it
Yeah, 'cause
couldn't.
I'm-
That's a great board leadership conversation.
Okay.
About where we might be.
Okay.
If I only knew someone who might be sitting around those meetings here soon.
Yes.
Well,
But-
it's part of the data that we look at in the comprehensive needs assessment. Those are part of the questions that we ask students in Panorama. We ask them about bullying, we ask them about these things, and then we look at the discipline data, and then we look at the overall needs, and then we have to prioritize what do we all need to make a school-wide goal around. But they do look at that.
Mhm.
And that bullying, harassment, fighting, that's all tracked in that Swiss data too.
It is all
I mean, you
tracked
could
and
break it
actually
down by-
it's on
by-
the low end,
by
believe it or
Quincy.
not. I know it happens everywhere, but it's not a high number for Quincy schools.
That's great.
But when
Pretty
it does
awesome.
happen,
Yeah.
I mean, it's intense, it's impactful to the
Mhm.
people that are
It
involved.
has been a huge focus for us too. So, it was part of the impetus around having the response that we've had with cell phones, and we've seen
Yeah.
for us this year, like a plummet in the number of conflicts and fights in the building, which is massive. We've also implemented specific lessons and advisory taught by our counselors that are about how to resolve interpersonal conflict. What are your different resources in the building? And the other thing that we were noticing is that our kids and adults didn't seem to have an awareness of the vector reporting. So that tool for if I'm being bullied or I know someone who's being harassed, I can go on and report that. And so I was actually sharing with the staff, we have a celebration because actually our reports of bullying and harassment have increased. But it's because they weren't being reported before. We know we've got bullying happening
absolutely.
in the building. Now we have more kids and adults actually reporting it so that we can intervene. So those are data pieces that in our MTSS and our PBIS teams we're looking at
And
consistently.
the vector is all anonymous. I know
Yeah.
you guys have put QR codes in the bathroom. So they can do it from, when at here, they can take out their phone if they want to report it on their phone.
But
So,
I think to your question, Diana, like, we're not gonna see our survey results on Panorama change if we're not monitoring and responding to that kind of data.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes kids feel safer and safe.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, today, I know your report was brief on purpose.
We tried.
We'll wait until we get the full SIP
Yeah.
plan to actually see all the strategies associated to it. I would just say though, if it's not a strategy that's at all selected or noted, then funding, attention, time really shouldn't be dedicated to that. And if bullying and harassment is, then it'd be really great to be tracking that data because those are wins and they should be celebrated.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
and silent. All right, thank you. Hope they're not coming here.
Well,
Any more questions for DJ?
That just stands up.
Oh. What is happening?
It's just Santa.
Okay, it's just, thank you.
Some people are-
Do we want to go look out the window real quick? You guys need a stretch break? No, keep going. All right.
Are you my initial, I'm gonna just do this when, okay. I hate to be in the middle of you and Santa. but- It's
like Santa.
Yeah, I just, yeah.
You bring the joy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's very festive. It's very festive. It's great. Thank you for your time this evening. It's an honor to be here. My name's Allison Gately, Director of Teaching and Learning, and tonight I have Elizabeth April. Is Ross? No?
Ross,
Okay.
his daughter had a concert, so he had
Okay.
like a no-go at 6:20.
Okay. Thank you, Ross, for putting together a lot of this report together tonight. We're going to talk about career. Career pathways. You're doing great. So you've seen our great booklet, the programs of study that we put a ton of work into, and we wanted to go deeper than that layer tonight to really spotlight some of the amazing work happening right here at the high school. So it's really a privilege to actually be in this space where these great opportunities are happening under the leadership of Principal Becker and the whole team. Today, we're going to just review a couple of things that I've spoken with the board about recently, but just quick reminders about graduation pathway options, our dual credit, and some updates to that this year. And then Ms. Averill will be talking about much more specifically our work-based learning opportunities and an update on our nursing pathway, which we're putting quite a bit of work into. So, as you know, at the heart of our mission is that we're all really working together to make sure our students are achieving academic excellence and graduating prepared for successful futures. And so all of our goals that you see in our school improvement plans, K-12, are leading to this, telling a story about starting strong, building up culture, safety, belonging, really making sure we're having rigorous, relevant experiences to get to the growth and mastery priority standards. So then we can actually get them through the pathways to graduation and set them up for success after they graduate. So the graduation pathways, go ahead. At the high school, there are three major graduation requirements. The first graduation requirement is all students need to pass 25 high school credits. So they need to pass the appropriate classes in order to get those high school credits. And then second, they need to create a high school and beyond plan that really details what their goals are and what kind of courses they're going to do to prepare for life after high school. And then that third area, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, is complete a graduation pathway. So there are three different graduation pathways that are really available here at the high school. The first is the post-secondary education pathway, which really sets students up for success to be able to access college level courses. So in order to do that, it's a combination of math and ELA courses or assessments that they need to be able to pass. The second pathway is a military pathway. So they need to get a certain score on the ASVAB military preparedness assessment. The third pathway is a CTE pathway, which is a series of specific CTE courses that lead to an industry recognized certification or college credit. What's really important here, and that again, I really appreciate the leadership at the high school, especially Ms. Becker, really helping us think about this really holistically, that yes, only one pathway is required, but we want to prepare all students to be able to access all pathways. And so really the leadership, Ms. Averill, I'm so excited for her to be able to talk about that CTE pathway, but it's really a whole network here at the high school to be able to prepare them for each one of these pathways. So digging into dual credit again is when students can earn high school credit at the same time that they can earn college credit. So there are 3 different course-based credit options at the high school: the CTE dual credit, college and the high school classes, which are classes that are high school teachers. They are trained by college faculty to be able to teach the same kind of course requirements that they'd get at a college here at the high school, so they don't have to leave the high school. And then running start programs is when they would leave to, say, a Big Bend or Wenatchee Valley and take classes at those colleges. Our data is very clear. If you have any post-secondary accreditation, so an associate's degree or some other trade certificate or a bachelor, our graduates from Quincy High School, this is our real data, they're earning almost twice as much if they get any kind of post-secondary accreditation. And what the data says is if a student has dual credit, so if they get college credit while they're in high school, they are much more likely to move on and earn some kind of certification after graduation. And even better if they can earn it right here at the high school. So we have lots of dual credit opportunities here, and we have they had this resource. Oh yes. Oh, it's part of our resource packet. I love it. Yes, Dana. So this includes our college and high school classes. So if it says the CIHS, that's college and high school. And if it's let's see, does it say what if it's all the other ones are the dual credit? Yeah, they're CTE dual credit. If a student were to get, let's say, an associate's degree or enough credits to do that here with all the classes they could take here, they could be saving up to $18,000 with just the tuition alone. And so if you go to college, it would be, we know how expensive books and transportation and living expenses are in addition, but there's a lot of opportunity to save money by taking dual credit classes here at the high school. We also offer, through an agreement with Big Bend, many courses that lead to a direct transfer agreement through Big Bend. So it's a fairly narrow pathway at this point, but students could potentially take enough classes here at the high school to be able to get a direct transfer agreement through Big Bend with the courses that we are offering and plan to offer in the next coming years.
Okay.
So excited for hearing work-based learning. I'm going to talk a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go a little bit. Oh,
On the dual credit opportunities, I'm looking at this chart. At what grade level are students usually able to take these?
So they changed the law a couple of years ago, and it used to just be 11th and 12th grade. Now it can be 9th grade.
Oh, can't.
Students can take.
And then my other question is I'm seeing that there's a college indicator here. Does that mean that that credit is only available at that college?
Which college indicator? Which one?
Well, it says EWU and there's BBCP.
Oh, sure. Yep.
EWU.
Yes.
Does that credit mean that that's only valid at that college?
So go ahead. I would say it's valid at that college for sure. If you were to do this one,
If you go to another college, it may count as college credit, but it depends on the college on if they're going to receive it either as an English credit or maybe as an elective credit.
Yeah.
It's still going to save the students money and so forth.
Sure.
It's also one of the reasons that direct transfer is helpful if we can get to that point of that actual degree.
But that's also why when we do kind of our career planning, it's really important for students to understand what are the courses that are going to help me for this pathway, so that when they're taking those next steps in college, like, did that class really prepare you? Or even did it help you explore, was this a good fit for me or not? Just thinking, you don't want to take a bunch of colleges or classes in college, pay that much money, and then find out this isn't something I want to do. So that's helpful that way as well.
The colleges are listed there because those are the colleges that we have the faculty relationship for college and the high school. So we partner with.
So in other words, they're the ones giving us that college credit. And if
Yes.
the student ends up deciding to go to WSU instead of EW, they're gonna have to go to EW and say, I need that credit transferred over.
Nope, they will get college credit for that class, that college and high school class. But depending on which university they go to, it might qualify as a general elective credit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would it still be the equivalent of $5 credits?
Yes, and anyone that's a college and the high school class, they actually all apply towards like a specific it depends on what your college, like, I'm not saying that's right. Yeah, your degree is in, because every degree, in college, you have to get a certain amount of credits in a specific area. But all the college and the high school classes, they should count for the same amount of college credits when they apply. The dual credit classes, they might be general elective depending on which college you go to.
And what you're going to major in as well.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you're going into education, but you've got a personal finance course, they might decide that's a different type of elective.
And one thing you'll see,
Yeah.
one thing that's new here is that we've really leaned into our partnership with Big Bend Community College. Just due to the fact that the overwhelming majority of our students, they go to Big Bend. And then from there, they will decide to transfer to a 4-year or get a certificate. And they've just been amazing partners in getting as many dual credits as we can offer here. And one of the other benefits, I'll talk about the Gates Roundtable. I was at Gates on Monday, and there's a panel of 21 college freshmen. And they asked, what were some of the things, Aaliyah was there too, what were some of the things that prepared you for college? And Running Start or college and the high school dual credit came up almost out from every kiddo. So even if that credit might not transfer at a 5 to 5, if it goes from a quarter to a semester, but the experience of passing the college credit and getting that in high school and not having to leave our walls and getting that confidence really is a value add for our kids here in Quincy.
I think additional work is they have a new person at Big Bend, Canon Gregoire, that I think they hired because of us. We asked a lot of questions.
But they only have a partnership with us in Grant County, and they're working to expand it to Othello, but they've really leaned into working with us because we do ask a lot of questions. I met with Big Bend president last week, and they're really committed to supporting Quincy students to get an AA here in the high school.
I think our next steps too is we're moving towards and we're trying to explore CTE plus. So more than that dual credit is that idea of how do we make these dual credit classes that we're making count as residency, count as, this is a real college class. And so we're sharing our frameworks, our curriculum, our materials list to make sure that the experiences that we're offering in our classes are at the college level, and those supervisors, the deans and so forth are looking at it and really kind of helping us at that next step. And I keep saying, Kenan, what about the health science? What about this? And he said, hold on, we got to do computer science and then we'll do health science. And I guess everyone's knocking on the door, Ephrata, Eastmont, Wenatchee. They're like, he's just like, we got to get through it with Quincy first.
Yes.
So we're definitely leading, which is good. Okay, I'll wait a second. So we're going to talk about work-based learning. Allison was just like, can you present on these things? And I said, that's great. Those are all work-based learning activities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is, what some of the benefits are, and then just the ways that we are making those opportunities available for our students, and kind of how we're planning for the future as well. So work-based learning really extends classroom learning into real-world environments. So it helps students kind of take those skills that they're learning in their classes and bridge it to industry. Just like in our student story feedback, they're asking like, not just like how, but why. Why am I learning this? And so that's what's really important is we can tell them how they're going to apply it in the real world, and they can see that firsthand. There's so many benefits of work-based learning, from developing career readiness, exposing students to new careers they've never heard of, especially in a rural community where maybe they've only been exposed to specific careers. We want to expand and broaden the horizon. Community benefits of work-based learning is, of course, it builds stronger business to school partnerships, but also we talk about this with our advisory committees, you are helping prepare your future workforce. So, when our workforce business partners say, we want this, we want this, we want this, we're like, great, we're taking furious notes so that we can make sure that we're offering that in our classes so that one day that community partner will hire that student and be like, wow, I asked for some really good things here. So we'll go to the next slide. One of the requirements for the state for work-based learning is that every CTE class must offer and complete 2 work-based learning activities from either category 1 or 2. And we'll get into those categories. What we decided with the support of our principal, with our director of teaching and learning, Ross is the CTE coordinator, and I and our teachers is we don't want to just do 1. We want to do 2. We want to go above and beyond. We think they're really valuable for our students. And so this is an area that we really leaned into and asked for some additional support, which we appreciate so much, so that we can make these opportunities available for our students. So these are the required categories that we're really working on, that we're making sure every student at Quincy High School has the opportunity to take part in. Career research and job interviews, and guest speakers and structured career interest field trips. And I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail. When we look at career research, one of the different things that we have talked a lot about is the requirement of the high school and beyond plan. So working with our wonderful advisory teams to make sure that students can see what their interests are and then start to explore the career clusters and explore specific careers. We also in our CTE class do kind of, it's a really cool, it's AI school chatbot discussion. So it's kind of like a career coach for every student, which is really nice. We design the prompts and so forth. The teachers can kind of monitor the feedback and the questions that are coming. That talks about how well the student's engaging. But you can see kind of here some of the questions that students are asking. Is attending an Ivy League college, does it improve your job prospects in the medical field? So kind of cool different questions that they're asking. And what we found is we had a lot of questions from students, like a lot more than we thought they would. We just had a few prompts in there, but it was just really interesting that kind of once you're in a safe space with your inhibitions down, they were like, what's pre-med? What's this? Tell me what I need to do these things. So that was really cool to kind of have that research. And then the teachers can follow up on those discussions and say, okay, guys, I noticed a lot of you are interested in this field. Let's learn more about that. Or, hey, we're doing this section in biology. Like, let's really lean into this part of it because I know a lot of you guys are interested in that. So kind of cool different ways that we can customize based on what the students are asking for and also provide more experiences for them too. Individually in our CTE classes, we do career research with each one of our units. So as we learn about something, then we're starting to explore careers that might take place. So again, kind of that hands-on piece and that application. One of the biggest ways that we kind of talked about, it's like really a physical career exploration, is our Pathways to Graduation and Beyond Night. So you've seen our programs of study, which we appreciate. And we really appreciate the question like, okay, how are people going to really use this? How are we going to see that? And that question actually really helped us kind of guide how we planned this event. We actually changed our passport so that when parents came in, they received the program of study in English or Spanish, and they received a passport. And so it was kind of like a color-coded scavenger hunt to take all of the parents through each of the program areas, and an opportunity for our teachers to really talk with our students about what career interests they're in and recommend courses or careers in the program of study. As they kind of go through each of those areas, the teachers kind of guiding them through and say, oh my gosh, you're interested, you really need to take this course, whether they're in one of their own courses or whether they're in a different course. And also, did you know about all of these extended learning opportunities? Have you thought about joining this club? Did you know they're doing this field trip here? You guys should really go on that one. And also, like, if you're interested in being like a nurse practitioner, wow, that's got a really good job outlook here. So it's kind of cool to have all of that information tied into it. Also at the Pathways night, we didn't do Allison and Felicia We did. Not taking all the credit, did an awesome dual credit and pathways night presentation. So that's kind of been an ask from our families, is just really explain to us, how do we navigate this system? And, you know, what does dual credit do for us? How does it reduce those financial obstacles and build confidence? I think we had some of our highest numbers we've ever had at like you know, that type of an event. And parents coming out, students coming out, just really felt you know, that it was helpful, it was supportive and good information. A lot of middle school families coming up too. I think you had more middle school families asking questions afterwards about, okay, what classes should I take and so forth. So really cool opportunities. We try to do hands-on learning so that even parents can see what are the opportunities that are available in our classes. These are students learning different types of stitches in their sports medicine class, how to take blood pressure. Mr. Ramos there, what it feels like to be in the shoes of a fireman and so forth. So all sorts of really, really cool things. We had our post-secondary programs in the library here, and not just colleges. We had a Job Corps here. We had community colleges. We had Northwest Tech. We appreciate engaging local industry partners. Vantage Data Centers came over, and I think Shannon, thank you for the introduction and the networking. They were thrilled. They could not, they said, how many people are going to be there? And I said, well, last year we had 700. But this year we had 900. So I think they've never been in contact with so many, but they were amazing and they were thrilled. And they got some good food too. So that was nice. But yeah, we had 995 guests attended. We said we maybe removed too many obstacles. So we're gonna rethink that a little bit about how we can still continue, but provide maybe like break it up a little bit too. So we'll go to the next one. Job interview is another part of that category one. And this is something that we get feedback from our advisory boards on, is that our students really need kind of that extra support presenting themselves for a job interview and presenting themselves professionally. We get a lot of practice in our CTSOs, but again, we wanted to make it kind of school-wide for it.
So what does the CTSO stand for?
Oh, sorry, Career and Technical Student Organization.
Such as?
Pause me, such as DECA, FFA, and again, more acronyms, sorry. Let me follow with some more acronyms. So we do a high school and beyond resume advisory lesson, and that's a lesson that we do with every student. It teaches them about the parts of the resume and kind of experiences they can start to build on to fill in that resume. And we scaffold it from the freshman year to the seniors, so that they really can continue to build on that. In CTE, then we did a resume lesson that we made available for all students to really fine tune, polish, provide exemplars, and to dig into that lesson so that they can really stand out when competing for a job. We did an interview prep lesson as well, which was wonderful, so that students could practice questions. They could learn how to research a job they might be interested, look at like the history of the company, look at what job openings are available. Am I qualified? What do I need to get to be qualified and so forth? And what type of questions I need to ask. And then finally, that culminated with a mock interview where we had these wonderful 8 different community partners come in. Their HR offices, their volunteers came in and interviewed over 100 kids is what they interviewed. Oh man, combining them. 7 o'clock hit. I don't have any more words. And so that was awesome. And the feedback from our industry professionals, you get a little nervous, right? Like it's like letting your kid go to play at someone else's house. And they were so complimentary, especially of our 9th graders, I would say. They said they were so professional. They presented themselves. They had wonderful questions. We had 2 kids that really thought they got job offers because the Grant PUD, said, I would really like for you to come and visit. I want you to come to the PUD. And so it was really good partnerships and networking for them, and also as mentors. I think those are great people to connect with, and they're excited. They can't wait to come back again in the spring, whether they're as guest speakers or mock interviews. So good community connections and so forth. Our guest speaker series was another great way to really engage our local community. We had a local and alumni guest speaker panel, and the alumni members are all in green here. So that's something that we worked with Felicia, our principal, on, just really kind of making space to bring in these wonderful presenters and thinking about how do we remove some obstacles. So many times teachers have to like contact a guest speaker, they come in the whole day, they have to miss work, and only those classes get it. So we were kind of brainstorming about how do we make this available for everyone. And so we kind of had each class come down. We had different morning and afternoon sessions. And next spring, we want to kind of mix it up even more. But these people coming in to share their personal stories, and again, to offer that network of support. Cody's like, come on out to the farm. I'll show you what it's like, and, him telling about how, man, I wish I would have really paid attention in business and management class. Guess who his business and marketing teacher was? But it was really inspirational. And again, just like another opportunity to be impressed by our students. They came up afterwards, they had resumes ready to hand to the individual speakers who they were interested in their specific career area. So handing them to Katya, who had a handful of future applicants saying, I really want to come out and meet you. I want to come and work for you someday. I think they were really impressed. So they couldn't wait to invite those kids back out. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Just some great feedback. Again, we're trying to gather as much feedback from our students so we can really understand how are they experiencing it, what do they want more of, what do they want differently, and so forth. But after taking that feedback and kind of feeding it in, overall, the event, the feedback through AI summary was the event provided valuable insights for students, motivated them to explore various career paths, and emphasizing the importance of continuous learning, networking, and hands-on experience. So Ross actually had this slide before, and he was like, man, as we practiced this morning, he said, those are just huge words to hear from our kids. The idea of how important networking is, that hands-on experience. These were key takeaways for them. You get out of it what you put into it. Your reputation precedes you. And so what you're doing right now in high school really does matter, and how you present yourself and so forth. So those were cool things that we got to kind of learn and be inspired from. There were some tears, I have to say. And there were some really cool questions from students that said, if you didn't do this career, what would you have done? 3 of them named being a teacher. So we wrote their names down for future. They don't know what's in their future. We'll go to the next slide here. Structured career interest field trips is something that we have tried to be a lot more thoughtful. We're not just going to go somewhere to go somewhere. We are really trying to look at data and be smart about it. Felicia Becker kind of started up and said with our very first health science expo, and she said, we have so many students that are interested in health science. How do we remove obstacles and bring that here to the high school? And so that's something we brainstormed as a whole team and really brought in professionals. Carrie Horning from the ESD as our career connected learning, person and coordinator has been instrumental in that. And so we're really trying to see how do we replicate those experiences so students don't have to necessarily always worry about transportation or missing a class or something along those lines. So we create some of those expos here in the areas that students are really, really interested in, which is health science right now. Also computer science, and is an area that's growing. This Bows and Bots is an experience that we make available. In the past, we just made it available for females so that it could be a safe space. We did an alternating event for males and so forth as well. But what we noticed is that when females were in that affinity group, they felt more comfortable to share. They felt more comfortable to ask questions and to try. And then when we had the guest speakers that were all female, they were more inspired. So I'm like a little choking up, sorry. But it's just kind of an awesome piece. And then you see events like that, and then you see the girls in computer science. And now they're going out on the Yahoo and the Sabi tours, and they're taking computers apart. You might have seen it on social media today. They're tearing computers apart and applying for some of those awesome positions. You might have seen in our communicator, Nora Medina is one of our past computer science students. And she talked to them at this Bows and Bots about, you need to be at the table. You need a seat at the table, because if you aren't, how are you going to be represented? So that was just really cool and inspirational to see. Okay, awesome. Offsite fields, you guys are ever gonna invite me back again? Offsite field trips, Ross has been absolutely amazing as our CTE coordinator, working with our teachers. If you've ever planned a field trip, it is hard. The packet is a lot of, you guys approve them all, you see them. But it is so detailed. And so he's really working with teachers to remove those barriers, reach out, and again, get that feedback from students to say, hey, a lot of kids are really interested in going and seeing the nursing program. And it is confusing to get through that nursing program. I think as teachers and the director, I had more questions, for that nursing director about really, how do we get our kids through this and what's the next step? So that was helpful for everyone to go to when we went and experienced that. Up above the Timber Dogs, they're planing the conference table for Quincy Valley Medical Center. Yes, it took us forever to find someone that could actually do a piece that big, and he was more than happy to let the kids do it. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Safety first. And then this event was actually today, Northwest Tech for cycling. They got to take these computers apart, our computer hardware class, and then they're going to take those parts and build new computers to give them away in the community. So really, really cool, awesome things. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. These are just work-based learning activities. So while those other ones we're making available for all of the students, these are the extended ones that we can make available for individual classes. And we do a lot of those. Our school-based industries, you can see, these are all of the school-based enterprises that our school offers. So lots of opportunities for students to take their hands-on learning and go and work in these spaces, earn money and practical skills. Whether it's the Hutch School Store, they're making coffee, they're making shirts, they're making signs, they're doing flowers, they're doing catering. Jack of all trades is like our construction one. Sheds. A lot of really cool opportunities. It's funny, but I still have students saying, Mrs. Averill, I had one last week, can you please be a reference for me? I'm applying for a Grant County PUD job, and I want a supervisor that can speak to my management skills. So as a student manager, I don't know if I'm a great reference, but I'm like, yes, they're very mature. But you train them on those skills, and you train them on that customer service, and that transfers all the way through their career. These are other opportunities that are available. We've listed some examples, but these are also opportunities for us to grow. One specific one that we're looking at is that healthcare clinical, which segues into our last slide. Okay, the Future Nursing Assistant Program. So we have worked really hard this year and last year with our school nurse. This is some of the progress that we've done from the training with the Washington Board of Nursing, writing frameworks, selecting curriculum, getting it approved by our advisory committee and so forth, just to make sure that, this is a class that we can pitch to our kids. So there's a lot of work with CTE that goes into even creating a class in the first place. She's worked on fostering those practicum partnerships with the local hospital. And we've even purchased equipment through grants and so forth, because before we can even get approved, they have to come in and do, so our next steps are submitting those frameworks we've written to OSPI. We've got to do our student application, because we have to have certain criteria that the kids have to meet to be able to be in that class, that actual Board of Nursing application. We, of course, want to, as a process, start to look at any new class that we're offering. Is there a possibility of articulation for dual credit? So we're looking at those opportunities as well. And then, of course, after we build all of that, how do we market it to the students? They already know, they know that it's on the precipice. They're excited about it. But then we've really got to get it out there through that Health Science Expo and so forth, so that we can make sure it's a successful program and that it's meeting the needs of our students. So this, we advertised it at our Pathways Night to kind of build some excitement around it. And these are kind of some of those next steps that we're taking in the next couple of months for it too. So that's our last slide. Or there's one more slide where we just wanted to thank you for your support. Your community connections are huge. I know that you support all of our programs and our teachers and everything. We can't thank you enough. If there's ever anyone that you're like, man, they should really come, or they should be a guest speaker, please let us know, because it does mean the world to us. And it means it to our kids as well, because they want to give back to our community. They want to come back and be part of our community. So we just appreciate all that feedback.
Isn't it incredible?
Sorry, it's long.
So much work. Yeah.
Support, any questions about the?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I just, again, I just want to just commend the high school and just the progress that we've made over the last several years on creating these pathways and making them visible. It's pretty powerful and it's very unique and it's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Allison, thank you guys. And Alicia and your team, thank you guys. It's great.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, Nick, you're up. Student board or superintendent report?
Keep it super quick because okay. Winter break, 8 days to winter break. Kids are excited. And with winter break coming, we have all the concerts. So middle school concert is over by now, but high school concert is this Thursday at 7. And just anytime you get to watch our high school music performance, perform, it's inspiring, amazing. So 7 o'clock on the 12th. So please attend that. And then elementary concerts, they're happy. You could pick any day this week till Friday and probably hit a concert. So lots of concerts. It's a really fun time though. Great time at Gates Roundtable. We had 3 students, former students who are freshmen now in college, participate to share their experience, what worked well for them, how in preparing them for college, what supports were lacking. It was just a really insightful experience to listen from 21 college freshmen. And Eliel, thank you for coming. I think you enjoyed it too, I hope, so learned a little. And it was really, the 3 Quincy students that they asked, did you feel prepared for college? The 3, not every student felt that way. The Quincy students all said yes. That doesn't mean that there weren't subjects that were really hard for them, that they wish they would have a little more emphasis on here at Quincy. But they felt that they were prepared to navigate college, which was nice to hear. Inclement weather, we did have to cancel a wrestling trip on Saturday due to freezing rain. So it's here. Casey, you'll get the call. Shannon, you'll get the call. Rita, you don't want the calls. Deanna, you don't want the calls either. You'll check on social media when you wake up. But it's here and we're prepared. Rob's been driving the roads at 2 o'clock every night. And I wake up at 4 o'clock, like, why didn't he call me? But I'm glad he didn't call me, but I'm waking up at 4 anyway. Just WASA, thank you guys for leading the WASA conference and this great time. Students, thank you for coming. I know that's hard being away for everybody, but just thank you so much for your time. You are volunteers. It's the hardest volunteer job in the district. So just really appreciate you guys and the time you put in. So more time I'm asking for, so thank you, but more time. Legislative session is starting and the legislative conference. Diana, we've made arrangements for you, and Shannon, you'll be representing the board. And students, we have arrangements for you January 11th and 12th, I believe. So all 3 students we booked for you guys to go to that as well. And then lastly, I want to recognize Alice, teaching and learning director Allison Gately for Women Leadership Award. It is a very prestigious award. She's one of 2 women selected as finalists in the nation for this award. So just congratulations. I'm very proud of you and wish you the best. And she will find out if she's the number 1 in March at the conference. She interviews live on stage for the award. I'm sorry for nominating you. Yeah. That is all I have.
Thank you, sir. Student board representative report?
Yeah, we go. I would say this is our fun time. Hence all the seriousness. Well, I haven't been in high school past week, it's the finals, but we do have a holiday spirit week. I think also the elementaries do as well.
Oh yeah, we're spiriting all next week across the district.
We also, as I'm aware, the drama had their Cinderella editions. They're gonna start that in January, I'm pretty sure. And then the band concert is Thursday.
Sorry.
That's what I've had.
I think there's gonna be a basketball game. Just a basketball game today, and there's gonna be I forgot when is the wrestling games?
Tomorrow. The wrestling meet is tomorrow. Yes, it's a dual meet against East Valley and Toppenish.
And then I think for tomorrow we have just like as the Grinch for the
That's next week.
That's next week.
next.
I feel like that's high school, man.
I don't think you guys. I don't think you
It's so funny.
I've been away.
Are you playing on Thursday?
Yes, I am.
Oh, so we all need to come watch you play.
Yes.
Yes.
What are you playing?
Bridges for Green on Wednesdays. Going for the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The clue, right?
I do too.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Yeah. Oh my God, no kidding.
All right. Thank you, guys. So it looks like we're just on to the work session.
Yep.
Sean and Camille, are you ready?
Want to take 10?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's take 10. We got pizza too. Sean, will you mute us while we're on break?
Can someone email me the pizza?
I'm gonna feel this tomorrow, but. It's
I keep refreshing, but I'm not getting my emailed pizza. I don't understand.
Sorry,
Where it's
Kat.
coming, it's caught in the spam filter.
Yeah, but you check your focus inbox.
Maybe this will be motivation for you to be in person.
I'm already planning my schedule for 2025.
All right, we can make this as quick or as fast as you want, so.
I don't even know if it makes sense, but.
Those are your only two options. You're quick. Those are your only two options. Let's jump into it.
Oh, yeah, let's.
So it can be as slow or as fast as you like. So. Is this slide 2?
Yes, slide 2.
Okay. So I think just kind of a quick check.
Take your time.
Quickly take your time. Just really how comfortable are you with AI? 0 not comfortable, and there's no wrong answer there. 0, you haven't used it, not comfortable at all. 4, you're extremely comfortable, you maybe use it daily.
Honestly, it's like between a 2 and a 3, like I'm comfortable with it. Do I think I'm getting,
I'm someone.
do you think I'm using it to the max ability? No, not even close.
Sure.
Like we talked, like some of the different tools have limitations.
Yep.
It can be frustrating.
Yep.
But
Yeah, what about you?
I think depends on the question. Is it for me?
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable, but if it's like for others and at a large systemic scale.
Tonight is all about you guys.
Yeah, personal.
Personal.
Yeah, it's all about you.
This is a personal. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a solid 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. 3.5, okay.
Oh, yeah, if it's personal, I'm a good 3.
Okay. Rita?
I'd say I'm a 2, but
That's okay.
I use
Yeah.
Google. I use Google Maps. I mean, I use a lot of AI forms.
Google Maps, you could say, is artificial intelligence, is telling you where to go. I would
It's
say
not
that is
generative.
AI. It's not generative AI, but it is AI. I would say I'm a solid 3. I'm probably not a 4 or 5. Will, Sean, what are you guys?
I'm a 3. I mean, I always feel. Aren't you supposed to be in charge of this?
4.3.
We're on it too. Not about you. I mean, I think it's an overarching question, I feel as far as usage goes, I feel really comfortable with it as far as all the societal questions and the bigger picture. That's where I kind of draw down. So, and it's kind of, I guess, a mixed bag when it comes to that. I see how it could be used for incredible things, and I see how it could be used for incredibly horrible things. So that's kind of, I guess, a long-winded answer to that.
Yeah, that was a quick.
I would echo all of that, what you just said, and then I would also add that I think everything's just changing so quickly that
Yeah, that's
for
right.
anybody to be like, I've got this in the bag is like really naive. So yeah, I would say I'm a 3 too for that reason.
Chad, what are you?
I was probably at a 0 aside from like what Rita was saying, using Google Maps and Google, etc. Like I have no experience with it. Jeff's talks maybe brought me to like a 0.5, but I honestly couldn't even go to the website to use any of the AIs. It's just not part of my daily life operations. Maybe it should be to make my life easier, but it's just not something I have access to use. So
AI for pilots, I don't know.
Well,
yeah, right. It's coming. Airbus thinks we're gonna have it sooner rather than later, so I should probably get on that so I can keep my job. But yeah, they want to move to a single pilot cockpit where the other pilot is an AI that's making decisions on its own. So
that's scary.
Whoa.
yeah, fun.
What carrier is that? What's the next slide?
Oh, you think we're gonna skip you? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you want me to
What are
answer?
you?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm curious answer.
Come on.
I read the question as comfort as in comfortable with AI being used and being in place.
Oh,
So
there you
I
go.
was very comfortable with that. As far as my ability to use it, it's just so fast. I'm really good at ChatGPT, very comfortable with 3, but only because there's so many more things coming at us quickly, like the things I used before, so. Camille, what are you? Again, what would you say?
It's a 4.
She already
4.
did.
Okay. Sorry. Mouthful. So really just connect you with where we're at in our AI journey today. That's one of the outcomes. And then learn some AI innovations for school directors. Sean and his team have created some GPTs. I think that could be helpful for you. And just kind of have some conversations as a board where AI could help you be more efficient as a member. You know, especially when you're talking about looking at 90 pages of data or 90 pages of report, having, you know, some assistant, that doesn't mean it takes away your thinking, because it doesn't at all. And what we tell our kids too, even with writing, you know, AI is never a first draft, ever. You have got to think, you have to be an active partner when you're using AI. So there are some ways that it can, I think, make your jobs as board members possibly more efficient. So and again, you know, preparing students for a future, and the more and more we learn about AI, just the writing on the wall is that the future is going to be shaped by AI or have some AI influence in it. So if we are going to live up to our mission to, you know, create a culture that empowers, you know, every student to achieve their academic excellence and graduate prepared so they can be engaged and productive, AI just has to be part of that story.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working to equip our staff and students. And we did our first family presentation too, around this.
That's what I was gonna say, you know, it's beyond that too. We want our families to be involved in working our way there, because it's a bigger societal situation. So we want nobody left behind or nobody in the dark about this topic.
Yep.
I certainly don't want anybody to conflate my ignorance with me trying to hold anybody else back. Everybody should run ahead and please just throw a rope and tell me with you, but.
So when we think about our strategic plan, you know, you have some districts that they're approaching AI, they're thinking about having an AI goal or an AI lives outside of the strategic work that they're already doing. And the way that we're thinking about AI in the Quincy School District is it can impact or will impact or is impacting every single one of our goals, from start strong, culture and safety, belonging, rigorous and relevant learning experiences, growth and mastery of priority standards, and then pathways to graduation and beyond. Really, we're looking at where does AI connect with each one of our strategic goal areas. It doesn't live outside of its own strategy. And I think if you're thinking about AI as something that lives over here, we would be thinking about AI way too small and not deeply enough.
I mean, it really has the power to be a multiplier of our work as humans. You know, it doesn't take away that human element, and we never want it to be that way. We want to involve critical thinking as we go through this. It's, as Nick said, it's not a first draft, and we would never use that in our strategic plan that way, but definitely a way to help speed up our processes, to be able to parse through data more readily, more quickly. So just a lot of advantages there.
And it's not an end, it's.
Right.
We already have, our strategic plan is our vision for what success looks like, so how is this tool something that we can use to help us achieve that? And we believe that it is, and we also believe it's something that's, students need exposure to and understanding of, and awareness of how it impacts their life, whether or not they choose to use it or not from here on forward. So it's kind of, but it's not an end. It's a tool.
So just you want to click through these, Camille? Yeah. So really, our journey, I think, with AI, if we think even back to spring 2020, set us up to be prepared and AI ready. before 2020, we've been batting around the idea of going one-to-one with laptops for probably 3 or 4 years, and we just had all these barriers. Well, you know, you need Wi-Fi, you need devices. How do you manage those devices?
I had a lot of reasons.
And you know, reasons why we couldn't. And then COVID came, we shut down March 16th, 2020. And within a matter of by fall, every kiddo had a device, and we went from 83% connectivity to 97% connectivity in 3 months. So it's one of those things where if you really have to do something, you can, you just have to find the way.
Right.
And I would be really worried that if COVID didn't force our hand to make sure that every kiddo had access to internet and a device, if we didn't have that in place, AI would drive this huge inequity among our families, because it'd be, again, back to the who has a device, who has internet, and now not only do they have a device and internet, now they can fluently or efficiently get online to access AI. And that would create, you know, just make that divide even further. So COVID, and it also set up Camille, bringing Camille as the digital ed coach, which really leaks. And Sean's amazing because Sean doesn't just know hardware, can talk hardware with the best of them. He's one of the best in the business. Connecting with Camille, who's one of the best in the business when it comes to the education side of the house, being able to bridge that is, it's been really powerful. So ChatGPT was released in fall 2022. We did a quick stop, block it all. The kids will
Yeah, I had an
never.
emergency call from a certain guy. I'm watching the news and I'm like, man, this is awesome. He's like, we're blocking this, right? Yeah, right. We are.
This is cool. So, and really with that call gave us some organizational pause to kind of do some thinking around it. And once we did some thinking about it, and one of the first groups that I went and talked to was I talked to our high school English department. I'm like, they'll never write again. And our high school English department, they said, well, we're not really that worried about it because we teach the writing process, and they do first drafts in class by hand. They have to have graphic organizers. They do peer editing. We have all these steps. And AI writing is just not great. So we know if the kids are using it, so we're not worried about it. So after I talked to the English department, said, and okay, Sean unblock it. So we unblocked it. We've done a lot of, I'm not gonna go through each one of these, unless you guys wanna jump in, but we've done a lot of institutional learning around it. By this summer, every single teaching staff member had some training on AI, how to use it, when to use it, when not to use it. Camille and Sean did that. And I guess going back to last spring, we did a Rotary presentation at Rotary. It was really cool to engage some of our community leaders on AI, and there was mixed feelings in the room. Some people in Rotary thought it was the end of the world before they presented, and then afterwards, I wasn't there, but I heard they left with a lot more curiosity around this conversation than thinking that the end times are necessarily coming. This year, we presented at the State AI Summit on really how to roll out AI through a strategic plan, through board policy, engaging our community, engaging our teachers, and that went really well. The parent presentation was really fun to do, and parents came in too, with some timid and scared, and but they left wanting us to more opportunities for them to learn about AI. So we're thinking about how do we scale up from 17 parents to maybe a pack full of parents, which I think we should do. I think that's what we're going to do. And then we are piloting some paid tools. We haven't jumped to like a lot of the bigger districts. They've said, well, we want to be the magic school, which is an AI, and we want just give us the app that we're going to use. And we just don't know enough about the tools to say. And I wouldn't feel comfortable putting a $15,000, $20,000 AI contract in front of you, thinking that we really know enough that this is the answer. And there's so many free apps out there right now, and we're still learning, like the data protection pieces and what tools really are going to be those best tools for that. So not only will they protect student information, but they'll also give us good quality information. You guys want to add anything to the bullets that I?
No, I'd really say, that's the biggest, I guess, hurdle at this point is there's so many tools, there's so many that are coming at us, they're changing so rapidly. And we're starting to find that some tools are really great at this, other tools are really great at that. And there isn't one silver bullet AI platform out there at this point that covers all those bases. So But it's great, we're doing localized pilots that are able to help us gather input and see if there is eventually something that would be worth investing in as a district.
And one other avenue that we have in the district that helps us make these decisions. So, Sean, Camille, Allison, Cabinet, DJ, we have conversations about what some next steps we should take, but we have a digital ed committee that's K-12 representative with teachers. They really help guide the work too. So that's structure that we use, similar to our crisis committee, that, we take information to, hey, what do you guys think? And then they provide recommendations. And we just haven't had a tool yet either that, teachers are gravitating towards tools, but it's not one where we would bring to you guys this time.
And the other thing that we spent a lot of time on last year was, thinking about PBIS and what the expectations are of how it's being used and how we're communicating that clearly with kids in the classroom. So, the board policy was passed in the spring, but we also worked on integrating some language about AI into the agreements we already have students make and families around using Chromebooks and digital media in general. That goes out in their student handbooks every year. And then this fall, the middle school and high school all came together, and the departments worked together to craft language that went into their class syllabi, so that students from their teacher would know exactly in this class, is this an allowable tool, and in what situations, and when is it not? So now that the teacher and the student and the principals, everybody can be on this, and parents can be all on the same page about what is allowed and not, and when is there going to be discipline brought in if it is used in a certain way, so that students have that understanding and teachers have that support. And then from there, now going forward, kind of where we're at is thinking about, okay, so now everybody's on the same page of what the expectations are of what's allowed and not allowed. But we haven't really said, like, when is it going to be promoted or intentionally included? And we've always had the mindset with the digital ed team that we don't want technology to be something that's just, we're going to use it because it's cool, but it's when is it meaningful? When does it help us, and that's what we're trying to think about with AI. So when can the AI tools help a teacher be more efficient in their planning so they can get to the richer, deeper, higher order types of planning that they want to do that's more supportive for more diverse groups of students? When does an AI help a student make their learning more approachable for them or engaging and rigorous, so that it's actually helping them get to the goals that they have? And that's where we're living in that digital ed team this year. We're working with Allison a lot more closely in the schools with their school improvement plans. Like, which strategies are you trying to do that actually an AI tool could help you with that strategy, thinking about it really targeted that way.
Well, and one thing too that's on the horizon is Camille and Sean put it together a grant to go to a national AI summit, or I don't really want to call it a training, but it really is. They're going to take a problem of practice that AI could help us with, and they got the grant. They're going to be able to, Sean, Camille, Allison, two high school representatives and a middle school representative are going to fly to Georgia to be with, it's kind of, I don't want to call it a think tank. You could probably describe it better than I could. A network, thank you, a network. With some other districts, some massive districts, like the third biggest district in the nation, and then Quincy, and then
yeah, there's Wichita, Duval County, Hawaii Department of Education. So, and there's only, what is there, 5 or 6 of us?
Something like that.
Yeah, so it's a very select group. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's really exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, congrats on the grant.
Did AI write it?
It actually helped us.
Yeah.
Co-created, thank you.
Yes. Yes. Or co-piloted, you might say. Co-piloted, Chad.
Heyo.
So, well, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk about how AI can help you guys today. And before we get into any AI, I've got to do this spiel because I do it across the board. Everybody who's ever gone to one of our trainings knows. Very first thing is always protect privacy, because I'm with you that we've always got to keep our student and staff data protected. So I don't suggest that you put anything personal in there, personal identifiable information, whether that's names, student ID numbers. It can even be, the redhead kid in my 3rd period class. Well, if he's the only redheaded kid, that's personal identifiable information. So we won't even go down that rabbit hole. But as we're using it, the AI today, you want to check for bias, you want to check for accuracy. It is pulling from the internet, and the internet was created by humans, and we all have bias, we all have inaccuracies in our thought patterns. So you always want to keep that at the back of your mind, that what the output isn't always the truth. And then.
And one thing I'll say with AI, it's like the genie analogy, you know, you ask the genie for a wish and it gives you exactly what you wish for, but it wasn't what you wished for at all. You know, AI is like that. It's motivated to do whatever you tell it to do. And some of the output that you get, I know you're gonna own this, it might be wildly inaccurate. It might give you websites that don't exist. It might give you articles that are completely made up, links that are dead links. So if you just stop there and take that at face value, you didn't get anything close to what you wanted. But
How do you identify that it's incorrect?
you have to question it.
Yeah,
You have to-
critical thinking will be more important now than
Triangulating
ever.
your sources.
And I think more relatable is just if you have something that you want to summarize, say pick 3 points here, and it'll pick any 3 points. You have to say, pick the main idea of this article, right?
But like, you know, read out your questions, you know, it brings the point that people thought, well, thinking's over. But with AI, that critical thinking piece, it's gonna be
Still
more
there.
important than ever because you have to check for those accuracy. You cannot.
You have common sense, you
Yeah.
have to have, you have to.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you get to turn your brain off.
No.
You
Right.
know, it needs to be on more so
More than
than,
ever.
yeah, when you're on social media and so forth, you really need to be thinking about what's out there and really dive in and really search for what the real truth is. And as we were talking about us putting in our application for this particular grant, always review the outputs, but also you're gonna want to revise the AI outputs. This is first draft thinking, and you're going to want to continually reprompt potentially to get the right outputs. And we'll get into prompting here in a little bit. And you also want to put that human touch on it. So just because the computer, I'll call it a computer, of this information, it needs to sound like you, it needs to feel like you, it needs to be human in nature. So you really want to check those results and make sure before you hit send or before you put your signature on there, that it really aligns with your thoughts or with what you're trying to achieve. So the next thing is choosing the right tool for the right job. That's what we were kind of talking about with not hitching our wagon to one particular AI platform at this point, but different tools use different data sets. Some tools use current data sets from current events in the web and so forth. Some use older data sets. Some are not connected to the internet at all, and they're an inside data set. So you want to think about that. And then also the data security levels that the particular platform uses. So if you're doing something that does involve personal student data, once again, don't necessarily suggest that. But if you're using that, you want to make sure it's FERPA compliant or that there's enterprise data protections involved. And we won't get into all those details today, but you really want to get into that and check into that as you go, even if you use it in personal life or business life. I really keep that at the back of the mind. And then the last thing is, this is emerging technology, but not only is it emerging, it is evolving technology. It is changing rapidly. So what you know today is going to be
Irrelevant tomorrow.
Yeah, it is not. Yeah. I don't know if you watched the 60 Minutes on Sunday that had Sal Khan on. But anyways, it was going over AI and student usage in the classrooms, and they were showing where OpenAI ChatGPT's technology can now actually interact with live video. And be able to have your camera on your phone and it be able to decipher that information and use that to communicate with you or to provide results for you. So it's what we know today is going to just blow our mind. I mean, tomorrow is going to blow our minds. So very exciting.
Is it though?
I think so. I think you just have to remember that there's always that evil that lurks out there, and that's just part of the genie's out of the bottle.
I think sorry,
It's okay, go ahead.
I think the one thing when social media came out, we took social media for face value. Or not for face value. We took it as like, oh, it's just a fun way to connect with my family and friends. We didn't think about the damaging, dangerous awful side effects and outcomes that would result as the use as more and more people started using social media. I think, we had one teacher, and this is one teacher's a couple years ago, she goes, it almost feels like we get a do-over. Like we get to have this technology come at us and think really, really critically about it, because you're not going to stop it. It's coming, but we now have the opportunity to not be naive about it and really go into it with our eyes wide open. And social media, we were not at all.
We learned our lesson.
Well,
Hopefully we learned our lesson.
The new generation.
Yeah, and hopefully our kids here at the school get to shape that. I mean, as consumers, hopefully we get to shape that and really drive the conversation
and like you said, the Jeff Utech at Wausau, we went over the generation thing, and kids these days don't trust anything or anyone really. And what we're seeing too is kids even being more cynical around even social media platforms and what they're doing with that data. And so we're at the right time to have this conversation with our kiddos, because they're very skeptical of all things. I live with 3 teenagers.
Yeah, some of this sometimes feels like a conversation we only have to have because we're a generation behind, it's like, yeah, like this isn't the way our brains automatically think, but this is the way our kids' brains automatically think. I've seen that with some students too.
That's because we're
teaching.
teaching.
More natural.
My kids are skeptical because I'm.
Maybe. Hopefully. Okay, so we wanted to share with you a couple of resources and ideas of how you could use these tools to just support you in your own work as a board member. And one of the things we wanted to talk about is the idea that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you want something really good to come out of what you're asking an AI to do for you, it does sometimes, if it's a more complex thing, it takes more thought to come up with a prompt that you can put in that's really high quality, that's going to actually ask it the exact thing you're actually wanting it to do. But there's starting to be some resources now, and WASA has one, which are called prompt libraries. And these have prompts that are pre-written. And if I scroll down here to the bottom of this page, there's categories. So if you want to have it summarize something for you, you can click into this summary section. And then you would just copy and paste this prompt and fill in the blanks. So please carefully read the attached document, summarize the key points that are pertinent to school board members in a bulleted list. And then you attach the documents. And then you tell it, first, carefully read the attached document. Next, create a prioritized checklist of actions that need to be taken as a result of the contents within the document. So these might not be all the details you might naturally think you need to articulate, but when you mean that's what you want it to do. So these prompts have been pre-thought and tested. So we are going to have you guys get into a chat and then click into here and look around and find one of these prompts you might like to try out.
Yeah, and I think in the next slide, it has a link to ChatGPT, and I can help everybody get in if somebody hasn't got in at this point, but this is the hands-on part of the.
Is that just where?
Are you already in, Dana?
Yeah, do you want me to show?
She's already there. She's already.
Dana, are you having steps ahead, or are you?
Yeah, and I can walk through one as an example while Sean's kind of logging people in. So if we take this example of the summary one, I'm gonna copy this.
That would give you a little bit more access to be able to upload documents and keep a history.
Yeah, why
And
do
I
you
think you
think
can
it's
sign in with Google. If you want to use your
What?
district account,
What?
I've actually already signed in
What?
with yours.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
no problem. Hey, that was slick.
You love it.
Perfect.
Look at him.
Okay, you're in.
Excited they are.
You're in.
I will be here in a second.
Yep, and if you want to, you can use your district.
Can I?
account. Yep.
Thank you.
Can.
That means I have to create my own password and all that.
Oh, if you go down to Google,
Oh, you're right.
continue to Google and then you don't even have to.
I should know that.
Sean, did you make a extension for everybody?
Extension,
No, extension tab, or is just the link?
it's just the link in there. It looks like we got 2 to 3.
Let's make sure we
You
don't
wanna
miss all these
attach?
Chromebooks with people with bottles of water.
Oh, don't worry, we've seen it all, spilt milk, ants. I mean, yeah, some type of insect, I don't know.
You still have a sticker wall.
Well, I was gonna make a comment that apparently email is not the
Oh.
sticker wall.
Oh, it's because I have this all in here.
Oh,
What's? Oh, yes, I have seen Sean's sticker wall. Awesome. So if I
So
put
what is
in
that
one of these
incorrect?
school
Let's see
improvement
here.
plans right there.
With direct type.
Oh, there's just a
Oh, I see it.
space right
Yeah, I see it now.
there. There we go.
I have my own account. I was gonna try and log into it, but it's just, I created a brand new one. How's my bedtime, boys?
That, and I think it keeps your history.
I
don't
know.
Want it associated with any.
Tell us about you. It wants my birthday and everything. What now?
I made it up.
You made it up? I'm gonna give it my.
Who's Daniel's birthday?
Now where do I go?
Default is just January.
We're just
1st.
gonna go here. Let me
That's
find
my
your
life begins.
cursor there. I've
Yes,
got
that is.
it.
You follow
We're gonna
me,
go
Jonah?
here and then.
Got it in?
I'm following slowly but surely.
I'm just walking through an example
And you
here.
can bookmark this.
Yeah, I did one where I wanted to write and I had a customer that was wanting an account
And we
and
can actually
had
log
previously had an
in.
account and I wanted to deny them credit.
Here.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
want to
like,
use the prompt
I
library.
need someone,
Okay.
I need a better message than what I am going to write. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
ChatGPT,
It's a little
give me this, give me an email.
And this is basically for sharing
Hmm.
your.
Maybe I.
You get it to work, Chad?
I have not, but I'm following through as Camille goes through hers.
Oh, I just modeled one. So if you want to go into the slides and try it, on this slide, it has a link to ChatGPT and you can log in, create an account. Let us know if you have any issues with that, and then.
Oh, no,
if-
no worries.
You can either just type in your own question query for it, or if you want to go back to that
Doesn't
prior
work that
slide, you can
Here we go.
grab one of those
Oh,
prompts
1949.
from the prompt library.
Yeah,
Here we
no, I'm following along with you.
All right.
It's just hard to divide and conquer, to pay attention to what you guys are talking about and try to do it on my own without being in the room. So I'm just trying to follow along with you.
Here's the basic layout of ChatGPT. So you've got this this box here. Have we already got to the prompting box, or is everybody? I just want to make sure I'm not
Everybody's at the
double
prompting
talking.
box. Yes, everybody's at the prompting
Okay,
box.
so here is a prompting box, and this is where you're able to put in those prompts from that example that Camille provided, or you can, honestly, you can put any type of prompt in here. So if you'd like to put in something off the top of my.
Song about the Quincy Jacks beating the Kittitas Coyotes. A country song.
You, verify your account? Oh.
Afraid of tigers.
He already has that.
Country stuff. And then all we've got to do down here is we hit it.
I just made it do my work.
Submit,
Would you ever?
and then
Do a
immediately you're
presentation
able
for high
to
schoolers about the dangers of
have a
substance
couple
use with
different
a special emphasis
options
on
here.
alcohol.
It's writing
Oh,
words
nice.
and so forth.
In 15 slides or.
This is
Did it
just
do
a fun
Dude,
little
I'm like, this is
display of
great.
what's possible and how
Would
quickly
you
it
vapes too? That'd be great.
actually operates, we can say. Like this particular
Kind of
response.
coolly.
But what it can
Especially
do is it
requests.
can do a
Oh, are you
lot
presenting?
more powerful
In the new
things.
year, likely.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Were we on the,
Alcohol use.
are we just
Keep
working
that
on the
alcohol.
next couple examples?
I keep-
Or no, are we just playing for now?
I did go
I-
to the,
Yes.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure I'm not.
okay, Camille, are you,
Whenever you guys are ready to keep moving, we can keep moving, but
thumbs up when you guys are ready, or
I thought
you
we
guys
were
Just
playing?
gonna get on
How are you doing, Chad?
I'm good.
here just so we can get to the slides.
Not a problem.
So we'll show you through just a couple of other examples here, of different ways you can utilize it, the summarizing documents. This is a link to just a sample board report. I downloaded one right out of the agenda today and the one I just tried out. But you can just put that in that, and that's the one I kind of modeled through from
What
the
report did you download?
We don't have permission.
mission.
Click on the link.
Oh, just
Oh, is it-
No,
download
click on the link again.
So
Yeah,
I,
click on
in this
control.
example I modeled
Now
a
click
second
on
ago, I put in the middle schools.
Oh, the middle school sit plan?
Cause it's taking you,
Here. So.
it's taking you into,
It might not let her because the
Microsoft.
ones on the off website are view only.
it works. So I
Oh,
thought
you
that
able
was,
to do it?
yeah, I got
Oh, okay.
the stuff. You just gotta click the link in, or the link,
Okay, so.
second link it gives you that says
You're not authorized to.
Oh,
do this.
I see.
Bigger, I
Oh, I
can't
see.
read that.
You are if you.
Yeah, well, actually, whatever we click
Oh, I
will actually
see.
show over
Okay.
here
Do what?
is how it
did you
ends
put
up.
it-
Why
And
didn't you do
actually,
this
we
yet?
can
No.
kind of
Okay.
make this, we can make this a little bit bigger. Actually, make this bigger too. But
What do we do now?
you
So
can,
then
I
if you
did.
go to ChatGPT, you can put in that prompt about,
want to make sure all this.
so I put, the prompt from the Wausau Library, please carefully read the attached document, summarize the key points that are pertinent to school board members in a bulleted list.
So
And I uploaded the middle school SIP plan. And so then it came back with this summary, the overview.
My eyes are tired. I could barely
Mm,
read that.
yeah, it's very small. It's from the Zoom version,
So
but it summarizes that. And
for
it's
instance,
still a
you
pretty
can
long
take-
summary, so you can say shorten
this is a board report here. Oops.
by half. I do this all the time.
Spot here.
Like I can't read it fast.
And
Short and shorter.
You know, though, I'm
We
not
could
the best
say,
seller and
in
it still
theory,
will
we
keep
can
up with
say
my
a
first file.
copy of this particular.
He knows what I mean.
report.
ChatGPT knows, man. He knows what I say faster, quicker.
You know, I'm amazed that it also
Or
can
she-
translate for you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's insane.
And
Have
what
you
you
done the voice
can do
translate?
is take
No.
that
That's,
and then
I went
you can
ahead and
actually
created a podcast?
attach that
That's
downloaded
kind of fun.
file.
Sean did create a
That was
podcast.
actually one of these weird. What do you?
So you
what
could
is
take
it?
anything
So,
here. This is.
okay, so summarize, those are just a couple different things you can summarize, grants, department notes, meeting minutes,
Today,
contracts.
yeah.
This is the,
Hold on, just can you go back? Chad, are you ready to go or?
Yeah,
are
no,
you-
no, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I'm just, are you doing okay over there? Are we
Yeah.
ready to, on to
we're
the next
moving
slide?
forward.
Sure, go ahead. He's trying to help me.
So
That's not fast.
That's okay, that's okay.
it's okay. Well, this is basically the same thing. Instead of using ChatGPT, you can go to a site called Notebook LM. And you can, just like we just did with that school improvement plan, you could load it in there and say, this into a podcast that talks about the main points of. So if you're driving home from work and headed to the board meeting and you want to get some background or you're,
And
chat
in
if you're
theory, how real
offline
it
and you
sounds.
want to catch up on or dig deeper into one of the things, you know, we talked
this
about.
way.
Want to land
Yeah.
a plane while you're up in the air?
So, yeah,
Is we had an hour and a half work session on our data. I'm like, man, how do we take, and I talked to Shannon, communication expert here. How do we make this consumable, like an hour and a half work session consumable? And I was like, well, let's just take the PowerPoint, drop it in, the
AI.
Notebook LM and see what happens. And we just took the PowerPoint and dropped it in and
It's
it put out 11-minute podcast and it hit all the main, it's like Dan on your drive. I'll text it to you guys. So if you are driving somewhere, you can listen to it. And
the
we,
podcast you already
Now,
made,
this
that's
was
an example.
one of
Yes.
the larger
Yeah.
reports.
Yeah, it's,
Wow.
it's people having a
do you want to
conversation.
click on it?
Real people. That link is not the, it's, I don't think it's linked
So,
here.
so
Because
what
this
it's
is.
able to do is just as from that.
No, maybe it is easy.
Honestly, this is
A bunch of.
Very
different
frightening.
roles. Okay,
Very
yeah,
exciting.
so
It is
operations and achievement.
Wait, what's it called, notebook what?
Oh, do you have the podcast somewhere, Sean?
So there are
I think
people
it-
now that are ghostwriting.
yeah, I do.
No, this linked
Can-
into the report.
You have to go.
There's people ghostwriting novels
Coming in.
now, because if you feed it enough of your own writing,
Within a few minutes.
it will write like you
that
do.
in
A lot.
20, 30
Hmm.
slides. you
Yeah,
write it
it's
down. to
Definitely
do
human
different things.
replacing.
Oh, it's a
You
Google-based
know,
one. I
3 or
like
4
that.
For the first time, 3 years. Cloud deeper.
Notebook
comparison
FM
tools.
dot Google, that's why I
something you
didn't
gotta
go when
go
I
for.
first
So
dot com.
It allows you to
Well, and,
dive in.
Sean did a really cool podcast, like, what did we,
You know, that are
oh
just
my
massive
gosh,
data
what is,
and really drill
it was a
down.
long, it was a really long email
So
that he
you
put
don't have
out.
Chance to read through 40
Oh, no, it was using
stuff
AI
like
for
that.
translation
To be able
and
to
student
get
privacy
the-
during student-led conferences coming out, because teachers,
So it's-
were
so
thinking like,
it's-
well, I could
so
use
this can be
my
definitely-
phone and use it to
You don't
translate
have to
my
use
conference.
this.
Well, there's a lot of sensitive information shared at conferences, so we did not want teachers to do that. So Sean put out a really lengthy email that was AI assisted, but then he also made a 5-minute podcast. If you didn't want to read the email, you can listen to the podcast too. It was really, really good.
He made-
Information.
I think that's brilliant. I think I find I consume audio way better than I do sitting down trying to consume all the documents.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do.
Sometimes we get some big
Yeah.
contracts.
Because I can drive and listen to it, I can walk and listen to it, I can
Did I?
So here's an example of Sean's podcast on student data privacy, and this was shared with every single one of our employees in the district. It's not gonna come there. Oh,
She had something pretty fascinating today.
Is that your voice?
AI translation in schools.
Uh-huh.
And this is just from an
Specifically, we're
email Sean
looking at
made.
how it's being used
Right.
for parent-teacher conferences.
Super important.
Yeah, I mean, clear communication is key.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to our kids' education.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, making sure
Yeah.
every parent can understand and participate.
Yeah.
Regardless of language barriers.
Mhm.
And that's where
For sure.
AI translation can be really powerful, right?
Yeah, it can be really game changing.
And that's what we're gonna
Yeah.
unpack today.
Yeah.
We actually got our hands on
Okay.
a memo
Yeah.
from a local school district.
Okay, cool.
It outlines the approved AI tools
This is like
Interesting.
for parent-teacher conferences.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we're diving into today. And
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting stuff. It really gets into.
So anyway, those are all AI generated voices.
How do we balance this like amazing?
And you'll actually notice in this year, if you're a Spotify fan, that your wrap up this year actually is using Notebook LM. If you use the AI wrap up, I haven't seen mine, but Justin was showing me one of my employees, and they're using this to wrap up your year in review. So that's really cool.
I'll email you guys the data work session podcast. Just for here. It was, and Sean, did you give it, what was the prompt that you gave in, or you just drop in the PowerPoint?
I dropped in the PowerPoint and then I asked it to summarize, I believe in under 5 minutes.
10 minutes. It was like.
Yeah,
10
or maybe it was under 10, yeah, under 10 minutes to do an overview of that particular presentation. It was really nice to be able to listen. I'm an audible person. I love listening when I'm driving to and from work as opposed to sometimes sitting and reading, to be honest with you. So it's a great way to digest what's coming at you.
So Sean and his team has.
Student intern from
made-
QIA.
From QIA. So there you go, job. There you go. There's that career connected learning piece. One of our student interns made a school district board policy and procedure GPT for you. Because I know searching our policy and procedures is never the best and it can be tedious. You can put in any, I believe the way it's designed, Sean, is you can put in a scenario, type the scenario, and then ask it to cross-reference board policy where it would find. So if you had, a parent, let's say, call you and they had some questions about the attendance policy and procedure. You could say, I had a parent call me regarding concerns or questions around the what would be considered excused and unexcused. They went on a 20-day vacation to Maui and didn't call the school back for 2 weeks to let them know. Is this excused? And can you please reference the policy and procedure number?
Can you do it?
Jules putting it in right now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm trying to keep up with what you said.
So, I mean, you could.
Whoa. So basically your custom GPT.
So these are custom to just Quincy School District policy and procedures.
So you loaded them all in there.
Yeah, some
Yes.
sort of database
This is
with
where.
So you
rules.
can do
With
that
all our
That has
policy and
all the
procedures.
on
PDFs of all the
ChatGPT.
policies.
You can
See,
create
okay, here we go.
a whole
Wow.
and it's for you.
Here, you can see it better. Well, I'm just shocked that you could create your own.
So yeah, once you're logged in, it's gonna save anything on that side. So I've used it often enough that on this side, I've got a couple different saved things that I've used for research, whatever.
Well, and this is one that's like.
So they pretty much attached files, all of that QSD policy procedure files completely saved in.
And now this is the link that you guys through this, right now it's just available in the slide deck, right? But you can get to it from the slide deck and then you can interact with it. Can that be
I actually
what do
put
you
it
mean
on
by
the board,
on the
board
website?
policy page on the website.
Oh, great.
you
So the
did?
public
Yeah.
can start using it?
They could.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could.
That's fantastic. I was just gonna ask that.
Every social media post.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just put it just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's the second line.
So because even the community.
Some images would be nice to like.
Yeah.
We'll get some AI images drawn up for it.
Yeah. Pride videos.
We'll get Dolly to put something together for you guys.
I have to admit, it's a bit self-serving because I get so confused
You know,
about
we go back to that
purchasing rules and policies and procedures. So I was able to stress test this out by, okay, I'm gonna buy 50 computers and it's gonna cost X, Y, Z. What do I need to look out for? And it was able to.
And for admin too, we've created a contract one because they have to deal with contracts, opt-in or contract language, so they can go in and search contracts. I can share that with you all. So you can have the contract GPT that have all of our contract language into it. We do have that our admin only are using, and it has been, the GPT's been trained not to process identifiable information. But if there's a student discipline, they can put the scenario in. And then according to the scenario, what policy, according to policy, what's that discipline that they can issue? And then with the issue, in addition to issuing, what are some of those restorative, interventions that we can put in place when the kiddo comes back if they were suspended? So they don't have to go necessarily read an 80-page legal, well, we have our handbook, our discipline handbook that our administrators, it's about 60 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Sean and his team, and it will be live up, so when we adopt policy and procedure, it will be updated, so.
Yeah, we'll put it once a month. So that is the one piece that the technology isn't there yet to do live crawling. So we have to create markers, but we'll update those monthly. That will be part of the intern stuff.
We'll change each policy.
No, what we end up
upload new
doing
ones.
is we have a crawler that crawls that whole entire site and subsites and then says, okay, all this information is what I want to use as my source of knowledge. So as it changes or a new policy or procedure gets added, then we'll update that.
So
Right,
it
so it'll remove the old.
correct,
Update with the new.
yes,
Correct,
Also, I just noticed this, it actually it does cite the policy and procedure, and then it links it. So I clicked on this link
Did
and it
that work?
took me to the actual
Hmm.
one.
oh, nice.
I am so
That's
proud.
new.
That took us a little bit to figure that
That's
part out. And if you
cool.
guys notice things that are incorrect or you'd like it to do something
I
else,
trust him.
let us know. Let us know because
Fair enough. We should do better than that. Yeah.
yeah, because
You're
we're
my
behind
genius.
that, we're
Pretty much in everything.
configuring and everything, so it really is customizable and we can change whether it's more formal responses, whether it's more conversational, if that's helpful to you. If it took us a while to get it to actually put the link in most times.
So it looks like just the regular Chat GPT homepage when you click on this or click it from our school district website. But if you notice up here, chat at the top, do you see this? That it's actually a unique link that's taking you to this Quincy School District preloaded policies and procedures. So it's different than just going to Chat GPT.
Oh, right. No, I think it's fantastic. That's a huge, lowers the bar to access to the policies and procedures tremendously, because even I've tried to search through them and it's, ugh.
I said this search thing, like the Quincy School District Policy Procedure to my own GPT account.
Well,
Once it's shared.
Once it's shared, once I open it, I log in.
Yes.
It's
once
like
you
right
do
now I'm
that-
logged into my school district, but once I get home, I know I'm gonna
Yeah,
have my
like
other
mine
one.
goes
Yeah.
logged in and I have the contract for student discipline.
Or if you're at home, you click on the
If
link,
you
Shannon.
clicked on it once from when you're logged in, then it will.
Probably
Cause
save
I use my own account at home.
Yeah,
But I
so
But
if
you
you
can
go,
you still use this link.
Oh,
if you go to your home and go to the
Yeah.
school district
It'll still
website,
be
click
there,
on
yeah.
that, then it would
So
pop up in
there's
yours.
some things to keep in mind, and they haven't been tested in court yet, but I'm sure it's going to be. But PRA requests, if you're creating your public records
Oh.
request. So if you are creating chats, now, if you're creating chats and you're deleting all your chats on a regular basis, like you're just cleaning it out, that would probably pass. But once we got a request, you would have to stop, because then it would want everything there forward. But if I were you, I would not delete your chats, because you can delete your chats, but I would say if we do get a PR request, a public records request, you can go back and turn over. I'm not saying that they're gonna do that, but it's a record that we're creating on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's hope they don't go.
It's
It's inevitable.
yeah, what's that?
I think I'll leave it alone.
No. So what, how many more slides do you have? I think this is,
Pretty,
I,
these are just some examples of drafting emails. This is the last one that we really wanted to share.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have got to see this, but hopefully it will actually work.
Chat GPT has an app for your iPhone or your Google phone.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
see,
what,
I've got an
did you
Android.
guys not go to
It's-
the AI?
It'll do it.
That kind,
It's that, you have the app.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was part of the operating system they got.
oh, it was?
Oh.
Oh, interesting.
say that was, that wasn't.
It has
Yeah.
live. trans-
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the-
because it's got Gemini built into
Yes.
it.
But unless you,
Gemini Live.
if you, it's kind of confusing because it has two little buttons. It has the microphone, but that's to record directly into the chat. And then the one with the little, the text to speech, but then there's the black with squiggly lines, and that's where you actually have a conversation.
Like
with-
Alexa, it sounds like you're
Yes.
talking to Alexa.
Yeah.
but-
I mean, yeah, so it's, well,
Act as a real-time translator between me, who speaks only English, and another person who speaks only
yeah, that's
Mexican
built in,
Spanish.
that's part of the
Translate
operating
my
system on the
English
phone now.
into Mexican Spanish for them, and their Mexican Spanish into English for me throughout the conversation.
Sure, I can help with that. Just let me know when you're ready to start the conversation and I'll translate for both of you.
I'm ready right now.
Great. I'm ready too. Go ahead and start speaking whenever you're ready.
Hey, how's it going?
He asked, ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias. ¿Cómo estás?
He said, fine, thanks. How are you?
I've had better days. I am super tired. It's 8:30 and it's past my bedtime.
He said, he tenido días mejores. Estoy súper cansado. Son las 8:30 y ya es hora de dormir.
Pues ya vete para la casa para que puedas dormir.
He said, well, go home so you can sleep.
And then it actually gets.
Man. We were talking about it, but I don't know.
It's a funny story because my wife's uncle, he's from Korea, and we've never really got to
I
have
love this story.
deep conversations for most of all the time we've been married, you know, and whatnot. And he speaks very little English, and I only know a couple words in Korean. And actually, this last summer, we were able to have real conversation and really get to know each other. And I got my first official invite to Korea. Hopefully I'll get to go. Get to go next summer, but yeah, it really changed the game and really changed. So it really can connect as much as AI can divide us to. So
Yes.
it's, I think you can use it for free, but it's limited the amount of characters. If you end up with the paid version, it's I think it's $20 a month. And the paid version, you'd have to speak for quite a while in order to.
Is that-
So if you go on vacation, it'd be worth it.
Or getting Google phone.
Yeah,
Or get an Android.
It's a Samsung.
So, yeah, we did that feature at my family parent supervisory committee, and I would say there were probably 10 or 12 native Spanish speakers or just Spanish only speakers there. And Maria Mendoza, who's the best translator in the district, I used that with them. And then Maria's like, she heard it and you saw their eyes just get kind of like yours, just like wide. And Maria put her feet up on the desk. It's like, well, it looks like it's been nice working here. But it was really cool because so often the translation tools that we've used have been so bad and they just sound so mechanical, but their eyes like, oh my gosh, it sounds like a person talking.
Well, that's why we had to get out in front of it with the staff at conferences. 'Cause we had
Yes.
shared this in the summer with admin and the high school staff. And at that time, they were like, it just feels like hope. And so leading up to conferences, they're like, we don't have enough translators. We get in these situations in the moment where kids and families are moving from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And they were like so excited. And then we're like, hold up, we're not quite there yet. We need a more secure tool to do this with these kinds of conversations.
But the general conversations, if you want a general conversation that doesn't involve, FERPA related information, so discipline attendance, medical, what else, grades, you can use it.
And I'm gonna guess in the next year, so Microsoft or Google, when you sign in with our school district accounts, they have what they call enterprise data protection, and it actually gets us to the level of FERPA protection, but they just haven't got the voice piece rolled into it. So I'm gonna guess within the next year.
By conferences next year.
I'm really hopeful of that.
So I think the last slide that we have that we really want to know from you is, this is just, the policies and procedures that was top of mind for you, because it is so confusing and there's just so many. But we don't need the answer today necessarily. Go home, play with it. But I would really like to know from you guys, what are some other tasks or responsibilities where we could leverage AI to make your jobs easier and more efficient?
Summarize accounts payable.
I'm gonna crawl the for discrepancies. For keywords.
You are a sick man.
What's wrong with you, Casey? But let us know. And, if there's a GPT that you would like us to build, I personally enjoy building them. It's kind of fun. Sean, Steve, it is so fun. What's that? Yeah, it's fun.
Speaking of sick.
You're getting really fast to that, Camille. You're getting really fast. But if there's things that we can do to make life easier for you, let us know.
Well, and one more thing, just on the accounts payable thought, that these tools, no AI model right now is very good at crunching numbers.
No, they're not.
They were just, I was at a conference last week and they said, you'd be surprised. Doesn't always seem logical that the things that sometimes seem so difficult for humans are so easy for an AI, but then some things that seem so easy for a human but tedious are so hard for AI. And so you have to be really careful, especially if it has to do with numbers, because they're talking in language and they don't really translate to numbers very well. So you have to be really careful with that.
Especially in a PDF format.
Yeah, it doesn't like PDF.
I've tried getting to convert a PDF to a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
So it will get there, I'm sure, but it's not there yet.
Well, that's all we have for you guys. Anything else? Any other, Sean, Camille, DJ, closing thoughts? Any other questions?
No, I would encourage you all, if you have a chance, to go home and watch the 60 Minutes special on AI from last Sunday. You really can see how it could really have profound effects on what we're able to do in the classroom with our students and whatnot, and really see that it's much bigger picture than writing a poem or a funny country song or whatnot. Yeah, it really can.
And he's one of the most articulate people that can talk about
Salman
AI in
Khan.
education. Yeah, Salman Khan, he's wonderful to listen to.
And with, what's that?
Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah, we're
to
gonna to you guys. And what we're really hopeful about too is it will really level the playing field, especially for our multilingual learners. I mean, just even the translation piece. I was a history teacher. I was lucky enough that I had a really patient paraeducator I taught history. I didn't care if they knew my content in English or Spanish. I wanted them to know US history. So I would translate my tests into Spanish in my notes because I wanted them to learn the content. Language is really important to me. But when I taught ML sheltered history, but that was a lot of work and super labor intensive. Like now, a teacher can do it like that. I could upload my assessment. Please translate this assessment into Spanish or whatever language, and they could respond. I could take a picture of it and read what they wrote in Spanish. So there's just the possibilities are really, really cool.
A student help you build that GPT?
Yes.
Our intern.
Yeah, our student intern, yeah.
They could be hired as a consultant already. That is insane.
Well, the good news, the crazy thing, Sean's had multiple interns hired.
Yeah.
That have come out of our IT shop.
Yeah, nearly all of them have.
Yeah, nearly all of them have been hired.
Yeah, where they've gone off to college.
But it was pretty funny when Casey was on his district tour. We walked in and his shop, the intern was sitting next to a vacuum. I'm like, really? This is what you make your interns do? You make them vacuum, Sean?
Gotta start at the bottom.
Your attention, Chad. You want to gavel us out?
Yeah.
There you go.
Done. Thank you.
Miss, Happy New Year. I hope to see you all.
Wonderful Christmas break.
Yes.
Like
Home safe tonight.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Chad.
Drive safe.
And what it does, like, you load all the names and their email addresses.